is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed. We're able to report a definite course of action. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you. Make your way to that location as soon as possible.
No longer seek occupancy in private residences, no matter how safe or well protected they may be.
They use everybody maybe 5% of the food available in the human body.
The kind of thing.
With that small amount, the body is usually intact enough to be mobile when it revives.
What are you saying? I mean, you science.
Dummies!
You're suggesting
dummies! Dummies!
Excuse me. Listen, quiet.
One wonders whether it's worth saving. Why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities?
You're probably serious.
I'm deadly serious. What are the choices? They won't run out of food, young lady. That's the problem, you see. And they won't run out of food while we're still alive.
We can lift you out to safety. Please answer my call if you can hear me.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be. It's that or the end.
Hey, it's Greg Nicotero. You are, or if you're not, should be watching Alpha Romero on YouTube.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
There we go. We're alive now. What's up, everybody?
Hey,
Happy Sunday
what's going
night to
on?
you all. I didn't even catch your real name, man. What's your real name?
Evan.
Evan, what's going on, man?
Hey,
Tonight,
you're
ladies and
Michael,
gentlemen.
right?
Michael, that's me.
Okay.
That's my shoot name, as they say. Yes, tonight I got Evan here, who runs Orion Trips, the YouTube channel Orion Trips on YouTube. Go figure. And tonight we're going to be talking all about the Romero Dead trilogy, the Dead films, the Dead universe, and kind of digging into, because if any of you guys have seen his videos, and thank you again for coming on, man. This is super cool. I'm excited. I'm a big fan of what you do. I'm a big fan of your videos. I've watched them multiple times just to kind of take them all in, and it's pretty. You do a great job over there. Um, but anybody that's seen his videos, Evan, I just discovered this because we'd never met before. We've never really talked until tonight. But I had no idea that you were part of the younger generation. You actually give me hope for the future, my man. I appreciate that. Um, but his videos are super enlightening, super thoughtful, and really take a look at these films in a way that don't really get talked about a whole lot. And I'm really excited to kind of dig into some of those ideas and stuff with him. But how are you doing, man? Thank you for coming on doing this.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I'm doing well. Yeah. This is actually my first like show that I've done on someone else's channel. I've never really done this collaboration thing before. So I'm excited to be here. It's a new experience for me.
Yeah, I remember you reached out to me months back. I want to say it was before Living Dead Weekend in June. I remember, um, and I remember you reached out about doing something, and it's just such like a busy time for me. Like I'm Living Dead Weekend's coming up, and I'm trying to do shows and stuff for that. So I was like, well, get back to me after the show in June, and we'll work something out. I'm always down to talk Romero. So, and then a few months back, you reached back out to me, and I was like, hell yeah, man, let's do something. So I'm glad we were able to finally work this out. And like I said, I've been a big fan of your channel. Since the first time you emailed me. I mean, you emailed me, I wasn't aware of it, and I was like, oh, let me check out his channel, see what he does. And then I watched the videos. I was like, like I said, you kind of articulate a lot of the shit that I've always thought about these movies, but you articulate it in a much better way. And I'm just like, God, this guy's so good. I wonder, who is he? Because like I said, I didn't know what you looked like or who you were, and then here you are, you're 20 years old, and you're way ahead of me already. In your
Yeah, I
mental
appreciate
development.
that.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
but talk about the channel a little bit, man. When did you start the channel? How did you get that going? What inspired you? Or have you like, I assume you've always been really into film, because you don't only cover Romero stuff, but I mean, you got stuff on the Taxi Driver. I just watched one the other day for John Carpenter's The Thing, comparing it to the original. It was really
Yes.
interesting. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your channel. When did you start it, and how's it going?
Yeah. So I believe I started it at this point maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Back when I was like 17, let's say. Um, as far as like getting into older movies, I think when I was like 15. When I was 15, I decided like, okay, I got a list of some of the more classic films here that I haven't really seen before, and I kind of just want to get cultured, so to speak. I want to get a taste for the old art. I've always kind of been into stuff before my time, admittedly,
Mm,
like music especially. I've always been into really old music. So naturally, old movies too, stuff even going back to like black and white, old Hollywood stuff. I love that stuff. Um, so I kind of just when I was 15 started watching the classics. I'm like, all right, let me watch Taxi Driver, let me watch some Stanley Kubrick movies. Let me watch, like Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood stuff. And it just so happened, on that list of I had just been compiling classic films people talked about on the internet. I'm like, okay, let me get
mm,
through these. Turns out on this list, everyone's talking about this George Romero guy, his Living Dead trilogy, Dawn of the Dead chiefly, but then, Night of the Living Dead too.
mm-hmm.
I think Night was actually the first one I saw from him. Um, and I checked those out, and it was kind of just at first part of this larger list just to kind of watch older films. I didn't necessarily expect anything going into those, but he definitely stuck out to me as one of the more unique filmmakers.
What about his films? Kind of because I kind of have the same story. Like when I was younger, mostly mostly horror movies, but I mean just movies in general. I've always been a big fan of movies, even since I was a kid. But there was a point when I was probably 12, 13 years old, where I started finding out about all these classic horror films and just kind of going down the list, and it's like, oh, I need to see this one, I need to see this one. And then there was just something about, so like I remember the first time I saw Dawn of the Dead, my uncle told me about it because I mentioned something to him because I was just discovering the zombie genre as a kid. I'd seen the remake of Night of the Living Dead first, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, what is, I don't know why. We can get into it a little later, but something grabbed me about that genre, and I mentioned to my uncle, I was like, it'd be great if there was I would love to see like a zombie movie or a zombie game take place in a shopping mall, because this was like the late 90s. So the malls were still, pretty happening at the time. Um, and I was like, that'd be such a cool setting for a zombie movie. And my uncle was like, well, actually, there is this one movie from back in the day that takes place in a mall. It's a zombie movie, takes place in a mall. And I was like, oh, okay. And then eventually I checked it out, and just something about it just kind of struck a nerve and stuck with me over there, to the point where here I am, 20, 25 years later, still obsessed and still talking about it. So, but what was it about? Because is there anything particular that really stuck out about those films that just kind of stuck with you amongst all the other films you were watching at the time?
It's a good question. So I would say one thing that stuck out to me was I've always kind of been interested in, maybe I'll say, anti-authoritarian art, or something that's kind of rebellious, or at least kind of um like questioning or doubtful of authority. I've always kind of been drawn to media like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think George Romero is just kind of the king of doing that stuff. Um I talked about it a bit in my video on Dawn of the Dead, addiction to information. Just this theme of having your like respected professional, like authoritative figures, like whether it be on the TV or in the government or whatever, just being met with this disaster that they have no idea how to deal with. It's like they can do
Mm-hmm.
everything else, they handle all the country's affairs, they take care of all the important stuff for you. This outbreak comes out, and it's like they're kind of just at a loss. Like, they don't know what to
Yeah.
do. And that's always been so fascinating to me, that just the idea of this situation that's so dire and so insurmountable that like your elected officials can't do anything about it. And they're
Yeah.
actually going to flee. Like, they're actually just going to go, like, it's not really explained. I love how mysterious it is in the Living Dead trilogy. You don't really know what happened to like the congressman or the president or any of your elected officials. But it's like in Night of the Living Dead, it's kind of hinted that they're just kind of going somewhere safer. There's that scene. There's like a guy trying to interview some like Washington D.C. High officials or whatever on the street, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like while they're just kind of trying to get in their limo, and they're kind of half-ass, like giving him half-ass answers to his interview questions, but
Yeah,
really
they
they're just trying
all
to get.
contradict each other.
Yeah,
It's like the
exactly.
scientist
Yeah.
is contradicting the politician, and the military guy's contradicting both of them, and there's no consensus. And that kind of gives you the idea that like, fuck, nobody knows what's going on here. There's no answers. There's nothing safe going on here. Like, and you bring it up in your video. You mentioned your video, addiction to information. That we look to the TV for answers. Like, and that's kind of what we, and when the TV fails to give us answers, like that, like to me, like that's one of the things that's always drawn me to those films as well, is Romero's use of media and television, and that kind of scared me as a kid too. Like, because it's just the idea of like, your trusted news guy. We all grew up with that trusted news guy, whether your parents watched, the local news, CNN, Fox News, whatever. They always had their guy. And if that guy, Walter Cronkite or whatever, couldn't tell you what was going on, like that's like a small underlying part of the terror in those films, I think, is just the complete lack of information, and the lack of anybody really knowing, what's starting this, how to deal with it, what should we do. Like, nobody knows.
Yeah, because like at the time these films came out, I feel like we were kind of at the peak of just like the public putting all of its trust in these institutions. Like, they worship the TV, they worship the newsman, the guy who's, on the screen, who seems knowledgeable, he knows what he's talking about. He's gonna put me at ease. He's gonna tell me, tell me what's going on. I can trust him. And then, Dawn of the Dead, one of my favorite film intro sequences, like, ever, is just we're inside of the news station, which at this point, like, the news station might as well be like the church, like, people worship the TV. And we're inside the news station, and it's just hell let loose. It's just chaos. Like, everyone's freaking out. The dudes who are on the broadcast are arguing, and they're just getting heated, and like everything's falling apart.
Yeah, there's no order to it anymore, and which you bring up in your video brilliantly. It's like Night of the Living Dead, there's still some like order, and it's like their composure to the news
Yeah.
broadcast. And by the time Dawn of the Dead rolls around, it just deteriorates into this like shaking camera. Like why are they even still on the air at this point? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
like what
the
are they
sets
doing?
are just like, they're just like messy sets. They're just so unprofessional.
Yeah, it's just
Like, it looks like
walls,
they're
just.
yeah, they're broadcasting from like I don't even know, some like warehouse or something.
Just like a basement, or yeah, it's just like, well, what's even the point? Because they're not giving any useful information anymore. It's not about where do we go, what do we do. It's just people arguing about what's happening and what do we do about it. And it's like you're not getting
Yeah.
anything out of it. But
Well, it's
we're
fascinating.
addicted to that,
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just realizing now, I don't know if I mentioned in the video, but it's like we're addicted to listening to them. But like, on the flip side, like, because you're saying, why are they still broadcasting? It's not like they know anything. Like, they really don't have any useful information to give us. They don't know anything more than you or me. But it's like, I think they are also addicted to being in that position of like authority, of like being the ones
Yeah.
who people look to for knowledge. And like, they have such inflated egos that they're not willing to admit when they don't know. They'd
Yeah.
rather pretend to know what's going on than admit that they don't know, which is fascinating. I think that's so true to life in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of people with that kind of big ego who just,
Oh yeah.
even
You
if they
see it- you
don't
see
know,
it-
they'll pretend.
You see it all over now. I mean, that's all TV and mainstream news is now. It's just people arguing because they think they're right, and it's not like they're proposing any real solutions or any real agreements about anything. It's just your side versus my side, and we're going to argue about it, and that's but it's the most popular form of television now. It's just watching people debate and argue about shit.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just it's all entertainment now. But yeah, man, I love what you do. I can't wait to dig into it more tonight. Let me hit the chat real quick. We got some folks saying hi. I want to say hi to everybody. We got Paul Brooks tuning in tonight. What's up, Paul? We got it's weird. It's changed the instead of showing the name, it's now showing the at whatever.
Oh,
now.
that,
So,
yeah.
So now I'm trying to figure out who was all who. I'm trying to remember. I know this is Todd. What's up, Todd? Said we're dead. We're all messed up. Yeah, we're all messed up. That's for damn sure. Iberian Sun, MK1VG. I'm gonna try to get these as best as I can, but I'm gonna call you Iberian Sun. But what's up, my man? Good to see you. We got Michelle Parsons in the house. What's up, Michelle? Hope you're doing well. Says I'll be tuning in, but I'm not commenting because I'm in the midst of 2+ hours of rolling out the gingerbread cookies. Well, it is that time of year, so it's totally understandable. But I'm glad you're listening in. I hope you enjoy it, and hope you're doing well up there in the Great White North of Canada. Robert, what's up, my man? Robert Harbitz. Second, this should be good and interesting. I agree. Hope you're doing well, my man. I know you're just getting over an illness. I saw you in the chat the other night on the Revival House show. That was a whole lot of fun. I was on the Revival House podcast. We were looking at the old issues of, or an old issue of Fangoria from back in I think it was issue number 7. Just going through looking at that, and it was kind of the backdrop of the whole show. We were just flipping through this because it's all available online. Like the whole catalog's online. You can look at every page. So we're just looking at that, but it continued to deteriorate into just other conversations and other shit, and it was but it was a hell of a lot of fun. I had a great time. Let's see, we got Drone of the Dead, Matt Landrum, my man Matt. What's going on, dude? Check out, Matt just dropped a location video for Cannibal Apocalypse. Just dropped that today, where that was shot all around Atlanta, around where he's from. So really, 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 really cool video. I still need to see that. Have you ever seen Cannibal Apocalypse? Are you a big Italian horror guy? Have you seen much of the Italian stuff from back in the day?
Yeah, that's the thing. I've seen a lot of old movies. Foreign films, not so much. Not seen many.
Italian horror, especially from the time period 70s, 80s, it's definitely an acquired taste. You're either going to kind of get it or you're not, and you're not really wrong either way, because I know people that are fall in both categories are just like, I never did it for me. But it's like if you kind of get the bug and you get the taste on your tongue and you kind of get it, you're like, okay, I kind of give it, because it's almost surreal in the way that it's presented. Like, it's not like, don't go into it, especially like if you're watching Argento or some of Fulci's stuff from the 80s. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be like this realistic portrayal of what's going on. It's definitely hyper realistic hyper realistic horror with a very Italian flavor, I'll say that.
Is that what the term giallo horror or something refers to?
Yes, Giallos are like murder mysteries from the late 60s, 70s, early 80s. Argento was a big one, and Mario Bava. They play out like murder mysteries, but especially when you get into the 70s and you get into some of Argento stuff, like the violence, whereas like a normal murder mystery, it's like bang, guy gets shot, falls down, and then it's like, oh, who shot him, By the time it gets to like Argento in the 70s and Deep Red, and and later on in the 80s with Tenebrae, and then some of the Bava stuff before that, and even Fulci in the 70s, like the kills just get over the top to the point where it's just like, heads getting bashed in, and just brutal stuff. But something about Argento, the way Argento does it, it's so like artistically done that it's almost beautiful to watch. The most like brutal murders on screen you'll see, but it's just like, it's almost like a operatic in a way. Yeah. Check them out if you ever come across.
I might
anything
check it
Argento.
out.
Just
Yeah.
give it a shot. You never know. Let's see. Todd again. Evening all. What's up, my man? We got John Vulo in the house. My man John. How you doing, brother? We got Bonnie Bailey always in the house. What's up, Bonnie? Hope you're doing well. Cyan, good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. I saw you. I think I saw you got a new cat, if I remember. I think I've seen you post some videos on your channel here recently with. I'm guessing that's a new cat. So good luck with that. I hope you enjoy that. Uh-oh. Oh, my computer's freezing. I'm stuck. I think I have a bad connection going on this computer. Hang on one second, guys. Yep, there we go. All right, I think I got it fixed. Hang on. Let me load it back up here. Boop. There we go. All right, where was I? There we go. Steven, what's going on, my brother? Steven Ustrack Jr. Howdy, campers. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Paul saying, happy Sunday, folks. Let us give thanks to Alpha Romero tonight. Well, I appreciate that, but I was actually thinking about that the other day, Thanksgiving coming around. It's like, not to be sentimental, but, I always think about, like, what am I thankful for? And first and foremost, always health. Like, the older you get, the more thankful you are for your health and shit. But I'm definitely thankful for you guys to come and hang out with me like every weekend when I just pop up on here live, and then you guys are always in the chat, and you make my weekends fun. So it's a nice escape from the real world and children and work and all this other shit. So definitely thankful for you guys and appreciative always. So I give thanks to you guys tonight. How about that? Steven says, out of the mouth of babes. I know, right? Look at this. Look at this. I think I like this kid. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I do too. I was shocked when he came on. I was like, oh my god, this kid's young. But hey, man, like I said, it gives me hope for the future. Hey,
glad to hear it.
Steven says, if you dug Taxi Driver, check out Mean Streets, earlier film with many of the same people involved. Yeah.
I have seen Mean Streets, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
that
actually
was that like right? That was right before Taxi Driver, I think, for Scorsese.
just about. I think Mean Streets is 1973, and yeah, Taxi Driver is 76. So
Yeah,
I
would
think
have
that
been
was
right
right
around the same
before.
time.
That's good. His also, I was gonna say, so you've probably seen Goodfellas, right? I'm just gonna
Oh
assume.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, because I remember thinking, like, Mean Streets is such a. So you've seen Mean Streets?
Yes, I've seen it years ago, but I have seen it. Yeah.
Okay, because it's interesting because it's like the tone is so different. Because it's like in Goodfellas, it's like a bunch of sleek, like actually professional uh criminals, like gangsters, like they actually know what they're doing. And then Mean Streets is just like a bunch of like wannabes who like live with their
Yeah.
moms and like they don't even know what they're doing. They're like conning people for like $5 and then going to the movies with it. It's like it's so funny.
Well, it kind of mirrors Scorsese's career at that point, because I mean, when he did Mean Streets, he wasn't Scorsese yet, and by the time he did Goodfellas, he was like a sleek, polished filmmaker. So it kind of mirrors Scorsese's career in that way.
Very
Oddly
true.
enough.
Very
Uh,
true.
that's funny. Um, oh no, we got a super chat. Hang on, I gotta hit him with the. We gotta loot the bank here. We gotta loot the bank for him.
You never know.
Money, money, money.
That's sick.
Jeff, what's up, my man? Thank you very much, and thank you for the gifted channel membership to the Revival House the other night. I'm gonna try to hang on to it this time and see if I can figure out how to renew it when time comes up. But appreciate that very much, man. It says, hey, Michael and Evan, happy holidays and all the best to all my fellow Romero and Living Dead family. Right back at you, my man. Hope you have a good holiday. Coming up this Thursday, actually, which is crazy. Like years going by so goddamn fast.
I know.
I don't even like to think about it. It's weird.
Like
because
Halloween was last week, right?
That's what it feels like. And it's just like, because there's still people on my street that have like Halloween decorations and stuff still up. So it's just like every time we pass, my daughter's like, Halloween's over. What are they doing? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like the lady next door has a giant skeleton in her yard. It's still just sitting there. I'm like, well, maybe they're going to put like a, I don't know, a Santa Claus hat or something on it at some point. But
Hey, that'll work. Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. And I was just thinking, it's weird. The younger you are, it's like, because I guess like age and time is relative. So it's like the younger you are, the longer every year feels like. I remember being in school, and it was like the school year would last for hell and ever. Like it would just be
Yeah.
like, oh, this is never going to end. And now it's just like in the blink of an eye, another year has gone by, and it gets worse and worse the older you get, man. I'm telling you, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm not even that old, but it's like I can tell a difference. Yeah, when I was like 10 or whatever, it's like, yeah, the years went on like a lot longer.
Well, it's
For
just because
sure.
like it's just because it was such a bigger chunk of your entire lifespan. It's like when you're 8 and a year is 1/8 of your life. Like, and you know what
True.
I mean? Like, so like it takes up more of your entire lifespan, whereas now a year is just like it just goes by in an instant, because it's just like one, for me it'd be like 1/37th of my life or whatever, you
Right.
know?
It's
It's
like,
just
yeah,
like, eh.
what's one more?
Yeah, it's just a smaller and smaller chunk of the overall lifespan. It's crazy. Um, but thanks again, Jeff. I appreciate that. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my man. Um, Robert says addiction to information is part of the theme in Diary of the Dead. Yeah, that's another. Have you seen Diary?
That is the
From
only, like, out of the three from the new trilogy, that's the only one I've seen. And
That's
I'm
the
glad
only
this
one
guy
you have.
pointed that out. Yeah, because that does happen to tie into my other thoughts. Yeah, on the other films.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of and I wonder. I guess it's because of George's history before Night. George's work in TV, like he was, worked on Mister Rogers, worked in commercials, and that's what he did. That's where he cut his teeth. with the latent image. So I wonder if that just always kind of stuck in his head, like making these goofy commercials about, trying to sell, washing detergent and beer and stuff and all this stuff. And then it's like by the time he starts making feature films, it's stuck with him, and it almost created some form of cynicism towards the medium, I guess.
Yeah, because
Um,
it's like he was actually in there, like he knew what it was like, and it's like,
yeah.
did he ever like
Uh,
outwardly complain about that? Like if he thought like, because I guess like commercialism was like a theme of Dawn of the Dead, obviously, and it's like, do you think he got inspired to kind of criticize that stuff, like from his time working in like advertising?
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it played a part. Because I know, like, as time went on, and of course he would do all the local commercials around Pittsburgh for the companies around Pittsburgh, and they would hire him for that. But then as time would go on, for the bigger commercials, they would always go outside of the local Pittsburgh guys. They'd hire, a company out of New York or LA or whatever to do the bigger commercials for the bigger money. I don't know, maybe that sowed some I don't know, resentment or something for the whole thing. I don't know, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it has to creep into his thinking and his mindset going forward. I mean, if you're steeped into that business of advertisement and all that for so long, and then like that's your life. um I'm sure that he carried that with him all throughout. Because I mean, that's the thing about Night of the Living Dead. It's like one of the first horror films really to incorporate, the television and news and all that into it to kind of help build out, the bigger horror of the situation that's going on. And I'm sure that played a role, of him just working in that medium for so long. But I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really heard him come outright and say like this, that it played a major role. But I would think it would have to. I mean, everything plays a part in your progression through your career, your life, or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it probably gave him like perspective on like how much television like could influence people, because he worked in advertising, so
yeah,
it's like you're literally working on stuff that's like made to entice people and like convince them and persuade them. So I'm sure he understood before that television was influential on the larger population, but like actually making the stuff that was meant to try and get them to buy things, he probably realized like, man, this TV thing is really actually, it's kind of powerful.
yeah,
It's got some
yeah.
sway on people.
Yeah, and it was, like I said, it was just a running theme throughout his films. I mean, there's always vanilla. It's about people that work making commercials and advertisement and advertising and um yeah, I mean it's one of those permeating things that kind of he played with all throughout his career, really, if you think about it. So yeah, I'm sure it had some inspiration or effect on him in the way that he thought about those sort of things, um, going forward in his career. Um, Chet Zar, what's going on, my man? At Chet Zar, a lot like the COVID pandemic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's it seemed to have gotten worse around that time. The whole people getting glued. 'Cause I mean, I guess people, lockdowns and people were kind of stuck in their houses at the time. They had nothing else to do. But I mean, to me, like the whole idea, like in your video, you mention, you bring up the idea that we're addicted not only to just news and information, but we're addicted to bad news. Like we're like, even if it's serving us no purpose, it's, we still, we're glued to it. And I think a lot of that began, a lot of that started with 9/11. And in my
Mm.
lifetime, like I remember 9/11, people were zombies, literal zombies, sitting in front of their televisions, just watching because it's the 24-hour news cycle. That's really the first time that blew up to what it is now. The CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox News, and all that. Before that, it was just like, oh, CNN, that's where you go. Then, they'll talk about somebody fell down a well or, whatever. But it's just like, but like once 9/11 happened, it was just like everybody got lost, and nobody could turn away from their TV because they were, one, afraid that something else was about to happen at any moment. So they were just waiting to see, like, oh my God, is something else gonna get struck here, or is there gonna be another terrorist attack? And I think a lot of these news organizations over time just kind of realize like, man, our ratings are through the roof right now. Like we got to keep these people tuned in. So that's when you started getting all the anthrax threats and, oh, we're, a terror level red, and we got to stay just to keep people watching the TV. And COVID was like another step in that progression, I think, to where we are now, where people were, I mean, I know on YouTube, I remember watching when the COVID pandemic first began, there was a YouTube channel specifically that just had like a map of the world and like a count of like COVID deaths, COVID illnesses, and it's like I know people that would just sit there and that was just on all the time. It was just like in the background. It was like extra decor, like decor in their house or something. It was just on the screen. And it's weird because like, and at some point I used to do that as well. Like I would just sit there. I could sit and just watch all this. Like, and I know at the end of his life, I know George was kind of in that as well. Like I remember his widow Sue saying George he would sit at home and he would write, and CNN would be on the screen 24/7. And it's like at some point, man, you got to turn that off and just, you know, get away from it, because you're not getting anything out of it. It's just going to drive you crazy.
Yeah, the thing, like real quick, I think of like Dawn of the Dead specifically, like uh, part of the desire for like the bad news is almost like it gives you an excuse to kind of like stay where you are. Like if you
hmm
kind of keep drumming up this narrative, like, oh, it's really bad out there. Like it's getting worse out there, out there. I should stay away from out there. I should stay in here. I think for some people, there's like a kind of a sick comfort in that. Like, ooh, you know, I want to be
Yeah.
stuck. Like I want to be stuck in my ways. And it's like the bad news cycle. That's like feeding my lifestyle, and it's going to help me justify staying where I am. And that's for sure, it's definitely a theme in Dawn of the Dead, is
Oh
like
yeah.
uh you know on the surface it's like, oh, they're just trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe they want to watch the TV so they know like if help is coming, or if there's like a rescue spot they need to go to, like if that ever gets announced. I think at a certain point though, they're just kind of looking for bad news on top of bad news, so then they can feel like justified staying in the shopping mall, because then they
Yeah.
can just say, "Oh, well, there's nothing out there. We should stay here."
Yeah. And it's like it's perfectly encapsulated in the scene where, they're not on the air anymore. It's just static. But Steven's just standing there in front of the TV, just like waiting. They might come back on. And
Yep.
Fran's just like, no, turn it off. Like it's over. Like it's really all over, isn't it? Like just but it's like they can't. That's instead of looking out the actual window and seeing what's going on outside in their surroundings, it's like that TV is now their window into the world because they're in the mall. They're stuck. That's their only access to the outside world at this point. When that goes away, it's just like, oh God, what do we do? We're trapped. Um, yeah, I mean it's pretty prevalent in Dawn of the Dead for sure. Um, Cesar says you have to appreciate bad movies. I agree. I agree. What's your favorite bad movie? What's like a bad movie you've seen that you're just like, man, this really sucks, but I kind of get a kick out of it.
Bad movie. Hmm. Well, I know of a movie that people would call bad. Like I wouldn't call it bad. I think it's pretty good. But there's like the Resident Evil movies
Oh, okay.
that I think are pretty good. I don't know. I mean, we'll say bad. We'll just say bad because a lot of people say they're bad. But those are my favorite bad movies, I would say. Which I was meaning to ask. I was
I was
listening
hoping
to
your
some of
answer
your.
wouldn't have been worse.
Oh, really?
I was hoping your answer. Yeah, I was hoping your answer wouldn't have been something worse than that. If you're like, yeah, I'm a big fan of, I don't know, the Wicked movies or something. I don't know, but
I
just
haven't
something where I'm
seen
just like,
those.
"Ee."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Um. Oh yeah. I was watching some of your shows in the past, and I know like one of your like frequent guests or co-hosts or whatever. He has like a bone to pick with Resident Evil, like the movies.
You're probably talking about Brandon,
I
Brandon
think so.
Salisbury. He just did
Yeah.
the documentary for George A. Romero's Resident Evil, which award-winning documentary, by the way. Just won the
Wow.
Fangoria Chainsaw Award for best documentary.
Sick.
Brandon.
Very cool.
So yeah, he's a huge Romero fan, huge Resident Evil fan. So the fact that George didn't get to do his Resident Evil movie like he was supposed to, yeah, Brandon's, probably just like, fuck all these movies, It's like, George, we should have had George's movie, which I agree with, um, but yeah, that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's fair enough, though. I might check out that documentary. Yeah, because I only recently learned that George was supposed to direct that. That would
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
very different.
Yeah, yeah, it was much more of a, it was more true to the games, like the original games. Much more of a horror film than like a sci-fi horror action film, which is what the actual films kind of became to me. It was more, it had more sci-fi and stuff
Yeah.
to it. But George's stuff, George's film would have been much more in the horror realm, more gory, more, more based on the monsters and taking place in the, the mansion and the laboratory underground and all that. But yeah, definitely check out that documentary, man. If you're a fan of Resident Evil and the movies and the games, it's a it's a really good documentary. It really goes into, George's career, how he became involved with Resident Evil to begin with, and how it all kind of fell apart. It's super interesting. I definitely recommend checking it out. It was free on YouTube for a while. I don't know if it's still available for free up on YouTube, but I think it's also Shutter. I think no, Amazon. I think you can get it on Amazon Prime.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
but yeah,
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 I'll check it out.
highly recommend checking it out. Um, let's see. Steven's saying Cannibal Apocalypse is an interesting film, some nice gore, and a very different premise from most cannibal films. Um, and Matt says Cannibal Apocalypse is one of the better cannibal genre and vetsploitation films. Vetsploitation, I like that term. One of my personal favorites, even better that it was filmed here in Atlanta. Yeah, which is interesting. A lot of those Italian horror films from around that time always filmed down south for some reason. New Orleans, Atlanta. Where was Savannah, Georgia? I think is where City of the Living Dead, where they shot a lot of that. Um,
Ooh.
Zombie is a good one if you're a fan. Have you seen Fulci's Zombie yet?
No.
That's a good one to check out. That one's definitely much more. It's more. It's they're voodoo zombies, but they're still the dead come back to life eating people. And it came out like right after Dawn of the Dead came out in the late '70s. But it's yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I definitely recommend checking that one out. Um, Jeff says, I love that. It's another reason why I gave you the super chat, Michael. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I can entice you with something. Everybody loves when Peter and Flyboy loot the bank. I used to have a T-shirt with that on it, just that image of them, shaking hands and holding up the money. And
Oh
you
yeah,
go to
like
Living Dead.
it's like the surveillance camera shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you go to Living Dead weekend, and everybody quotes the movie back to you when they see your shirt, and just like you never know. I'm like money, money, money. I love that shirt. Chester says, dude, I'm 58. And it goes way faster when you get older. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't like to think about that, but yeah, it really does. Or it literally doesn't, but it feels like it does because, like I said, it's just it's all relative, I guess. Paul says also need to make sure Evan checks out Night Riders at some point. Have you seen Night Riders, Romero's Night Riders?
No, but I've heard about it. Yes, that's one of the ones that I need to check out. I'm really curious because I've only seen his zombie-based stuff. I haven't seen his other films.
Okay, all right. Let me see. I think you would really, really like Martin. I get the vibe that Martin would be right up your alley.
Okay.
That's the
That's
one
like
that he
a
did right before Dawn.
vampire sort of thing, right? But like
Yeah,
not in a traditional sense.
No. It's not your typical vampire movie. I'll just say that. It's definitely more of a psychological character study of a kid who thinks he's a vampire, but we don't really know, is he or isn't he? Or is he just crazy? Or is he actually got this curse? And it's really, really good. It's one of my, it's probably my second favorite movie ever behind Dawn of the Dead. I love everything about that movie. So yeah, Martin, Knight Riders definitely is one to check out. Um, the Crazies, I think you'd get something out of the Crazies as well. Um, yeah, you definitely gotta dig in, man. Gotta dig in.
I definitely need to. Yeah.
Steven says we're probably going to give this guy 20 years worth of films to watch. Yeah, that's what I figured. The chat's just going to be like, "Oh, you got to watch this, man. You got to watch this." But if you dig gangster pictures, check out The Brotherhood. Kirk Douglas as an Italian mobster predates The Godfather. There you go. That's one I haven't seen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one I haven't seen.
I will write this down.
Make you a list. Make you a list.
Gotta take notes.
What's up, Stugus? My man Grant, half awake but made it. Well, welcome, sir. Hope you're doing well, and hope work wasn't too bad for you. We got Stezio in the house. Stezio Descartes says, "Evening all. Driving home, listening. We'll drive safe, my man, and hopefully we can keep you company on your drive home." Chester says, "I was referring to a lot of the Italian horror movies of the '80s." Oh yeah. They all kind of have that. A lot of them have that so bad they're good type of vibe to them, where they're really cheesy and over the top, but at the same time they kind of stick with you because it's just like, who fucking made this and how did they get this made? Like it's it's from a different time basically. Hey, Robert's with you. Robert really says I really like all the Resident Evil movies. So yeah, there you go. Robert's with you.
I think the first one is like real quick. The first one's like legitimately like visually like one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. Like the lighting is on point, like the angles, the camera movements, like it's insane. I don't even know how they did it. I don't understand. It's really good.
I honestly, I've only seen the first one and the second one, so
the second one's like a drastic like drop in quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And it kind of reminded me, like when I saw it, it kind of reminded me because Paul W.S. Anderson also made the Mortal Kombat adaptation from '95.
Really?
And that's one of the better video game adaptations, in my opinion, is the Mortal Kombat from back in the day. Because I was a kid when I saw it, and I loved Mortal Kombat, and I thought it was the coolest fucking movie ever, and it still holds up. And Resident Evil kind of felt the same way because the sequel to Mortal Kombat, Apocalypse, or no, not Apocalypse, but that's the Resident Evil one, Annihilation, the sequel to Mortal Kombat. It kind of felt in that same vein because Annihilation, the sequel to Mortal Kombat, it really took a nosedive in quality. Like it looked like shit, like bad CGI, bad acting, and it was just like I wouldn't say Apocalypse is as bad as Annihilation, but yeah, I agree. It was definitely a step down from the first one for sure.
Did the second Mortal Kombat, did it do like, because the problem with Apocalypse for me was like they started trying way too hard to appeal to like the gamer fans, like putting in like references from the actual game.
Yeah.
And it felt just kind of forced. Like, did the Mortal Kombat sequel kind of do that?
Actually, yeah, very much so. Because I know in Annihilation they started introducing like just tons and tons of characters from the game. Like in the original Mortal Kombat movie, it's like you have your core, Johnny Cage, Sonya, your core guys, Liu Kang, and then by the time Annihilation rolls around, it's just like they're just throwing every character from the game that they can think of. It's just like, okay, and then by the end of it, you're just like, I don't even remember who the hell, like who was in that movie to begin with. And it's kind of the same with Apocalypse. It's like Apocalypse, they started like really throwing in more from the games and really just piling on to the point where it just kind of gets a little messy.
Yeah.
Matt says tax breaks and at the time no unions. There you go. All right, that makes total sense. For why they were filming down south. Jetstar says Zombie has amazing cinematography. There you go. I agree with that. It is very well made movie for sure. Especially for that genre, that Italian zombie genre around that time. Still just says I love Richard Elfman's The Forbidden Zone. Truly classic bad taste. That's another one I haven't seen. Forbidden Zone. Jetstar saying Creep Show. You got to see Creep Show.
Funny story. I own that on DVD, but I have not watched it. So I could start with that. Yeah.
There you go. It's a classic. It's George and Stephen King having fun doing a horror comic book movie basically. It's one of the first like real comic book movies that I can think of that really embraced the whole idea of the comic book aspect, where the pages are flipping and the animations come to life, and it, it's really good. It's a true classic for sure.
Doesn't Stephen King actually like act in that?
Oh yeah. He's
Yeah.
Jordy Verrill. It's really over the top, and he's embarrassed about it now. Like looking back, like he talks about it now, he's just like, I can't believe I did that. But George loved it. George was just like, hey, I'm looking for over the top cartoon, is what I was going for, and Stephen King pulls it off amazingly in that movie. But yeah, Steven's not a fan of it.
Man.
Steven says, speaking of Steven, pushing the Martin agenda as usual. A film about a wannabe vampire, better than Twilight. Well, I'll take that. I'll always push the Martin agenda. I don't care. Robert says, rewatch Diary of the Dead and then right after watch Survival of the Dead. Yeah, the best way, in my opinion, to watch the later trilogy of Romero's zombie films, go Diary, Survival, and then Land afterwards, and it kind of follows a timeline there, actually.
Okay. Is that not the order they were released in?
No, Land was 2005, Survival or Diary was 2000, late 2007, early 2008, and then Survival was 2010. So
okay,
and Survival was George's last film. So, but if you watch them, like I said, Diary, Survival, then Land, because Land is technically the sequel to Day, 20 years after he made Day. And it works as a sequel to Day, but the character that you follow in Survival is also the same character from Diary, and he also pops up in Land. So it's almost like you can follow that character through through those three films if you watch it in that order. But My Lunatic, what's going on, My? I haven't seen you in a while. Finally home in time to catch a live one. Said my boyfriend show me Hell of the Living Dead. Is that a Dawn sequel? Hope everyone's well. I would call it a Dawn sequel, but it's definitely a Dawn ripoff. But it's a really really bad Italian Dawn of the Dead ripoff. To the point where they use the same costuming, the same music. It's got some good gore in it, I'll say that. It's a fun one. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I know Larry's not a big fan of it. But yeah, definitely check that out. It's not a sequel, but I would say a direct ripoff, as much of a ripoff as you can get, to the point where the filmmaker, Bruno Mattei, directed it under a different name, and the name he used was Vincent Dawn. So, D-A-W-N. So
it's like a serious movie, or is it like a spoof where it's like meant to be kind of goofy?
It's meant to be a serious movie, I think, but it just turns out to be kind of a spoof. But there are some like really like hardcore like aspects to it, like gore wise and stuff too. So, but that's the thing about those movies back in the day. It's like that's the charm of them. It's like the filmmaker thinks that he's tackling a serious topic in a serious way, but it's not. Like when you watch it, you're just like, this is a little iffy. But that's the charm of it. They don't know that they're making a bad film. It's like the Ed Wood syndrome. It's like Ed Wood never thought he was making a bad movie, but that's the charm of it. It's like if you know you're making a bad movie, then it kind of loses that charm, in my opinion.
Right, because it can be like unintentionally funny or charming. Yeah.
Yeah, unintentionally funny. That's a good way to put it. Steven says The Crazies is a fascinating period piece. You spoke earlier about trust in institutions, and Romero really showed his lack of trust at a time when it was getting easier to criticize the power structure. Yeah, The Crazies, just talking about COVID, like the Crazies was one that I went back and rewatched right in the middle of, the COVID lockdowns and everything. And you can just see like the stark, like, it was just like George saw it coming. Like everything that we were seeing on TV was happening in The Crazies. Like people arguing less about, like, the problem itself was less of a threat than how we were handling the problem, basically. And I was just like, wow, okay, George kind of saw this coming years before anything like that was going to happen. Grande, what's going on, my man? Me and Grande are in the middle of a battle right now in our fantasy football league, so I don't know. I don't know how I'm doing right now, but I have a feeling Grande is going to kick my ass this week, but it's okay. He owed it to me. I kicked his ass week 1, so. Grande says, "Hey,
punches.
Question for the guest: top 3 favorite films, not genre specific. That's a good question. What are your top 3 favorite films? Period.
Okay. I mean, number one, it's Taxi Driver is my number one. That's my go-to answer.
It's a good
It's
one.
probably gonna remain number one. Yeah. 2 and 3. There's a few different ones that could take that spot. I do have a poster for Blade Runner on my wall over there. Blade Runner might take 2 or 3, depending on what day of the week it is. I'll say it's number 2 for now. Number 3? I mean, Romero might slide in there with it could be okay. So for a while, like Day of the Dead was my favorite from Romero, and it was like in my top 3. So I'll say Taxi Driver, Blade Runner, Day of the Dead, if I have to put them in the top 3. But there's others I could throw in there, like Mad Max Fury Road specifically. I think is one of like the greatest films ever made, especially like greatest film of this century so far, like one of the greatest. Other than that, maybe something by John Carpenter, like Escape from New York. I love that film.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
That or They Live is also so much fun.
Yeah, They Live seems like you're right up your alley.
Yeah,
which
for sure.
Which you've done videos on They Live, The Thing, Mad Max, you know, pretty much all the videos on your channel are you can tell that you have such a love and a passion for that you really take the time to kind of examine them that way. So it's yeah, I probably could have answered that for you. I've been watching so many of your videos lately.
You could have made a good guess. Yeah.
I could have guessed. Yeah. But yeah, Taxi Driver is like that. I always say, like, 'cause when I was younger, I wanted to grow up to be a filmmaker. Like, I wanted to be a filmmaker. Taxi Driver was always one of those films that it was like, I want to make a movie like that. You know, Martin is kind of like that too. Romero's Martin. When Martin kind of has a lot of similarities with Taxi Driver in a way, because it's really just focused on this one character and how he interacts with a society around him that he doesn't understand and is a complete outcast from. Everybody in Martin treats Martin like shit or disappoints him, or he's not of that world almost. And it's the same with De Niro and Taxi Driver. They're very similar in that way. So that's why I think you would be a big. I think that's why you would like Martin.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. You're really selling me here.
Hey,
that's what I'm here to do.
That's what I'm here to do. Robert says Hell of the Living Dead is a fun zombie movie. It's a fun zombie movie. That's what we'll say. Steven says you'll understand this if you start to watch more Italian horror movies like Hell of the Living Dead. It's just Italian horror. That's a good way to put it. It's just Italian horror. Like I said, it's an acquired taste. Not necessarily a parody, but very likely a ripoff with some charm. There you go. Good way to put it. Granny saying great picks, man. Taxi Driver's definitely up there for me too. I think, it's hard. It's because Scorsese's made so many great movies, movies that I love. I mean, even a lot of the newer stuff that he's done, it's hard to pick out like, oh, that's a bad movie that Scorsese ever did. But Taxi Driver is just one that, like I said, it's like if I ever made a movie, I would want to make something like Taxi Driver. I just think it's perfect, like from start to finish, like just the whole story. If I ever put it on, or if it's on, YouTube or something, I'll just throw it on and I just get sucked in. Like every time, it's like scene after scene. It's like every scene's better than the next type of thing.
Yeah, it was really. I just feel like it was the first film I watched that just truly expanded my horizons. Where I was like, man, like movies can be this, because I was used to more standard fares with movies. And like you were saying with Martin, like Taxi Driver, it just kind of follows one like maladjusted guy. Like there isn't like this great ensemble cast. There isn't like a ton of, fun banter, like back and forth dialogue between like charming dudes. It's like one dude who's like too isolated and kind of awkward and like sort of dangerous. And it's like really fascinating just following someone like this so closely, just looking into his life with such detail, seeing, all the different problems, just like the grime in his apartment and like the way he, the garbage food he eats. Like it's just
Yeah,
I'd never seen a film dive so far into like the darkness like that.
Yeah, and his like cynicism, like, because I was and this was a movie that I was working on for years, writing screenplay for, and fleshing out. But for years, I was a pizza delivery guy in my 20s. Like, I delivered pizzas, and that was that was my thing. And I was like, I always felt like fucking Travis Bickle a lot of times, because I delivered pizzas late at night. Like, I was the late night driver. I would work till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would see like the scourge of society. Those people that order pizzas at midnight, and you go up to their door, and people open their doors to you, and they don't think of the stuff that's going on inside people's homes was shocking sometimes to see. So I felt like Travis Bickle a lot of the time, where I'm just like, oh, one of these days, a great rain will come and wash all the scum off these streets. And I started to get into that mindset a little bit. I was like, fuck. So I thought, like, man, it'd be a great concept to do like a Taxi Driver type of film, but instead of a taxi driver, it's a pizza delivery guy, and all the shit that he sees on a nightly basis. Because I saw some shit, man. Just like abuse and like hoarders, and just the literally like just the dark side of society. That would order, like, those are the people that order pizzas at midnight, because they didn't wake up till 8 o'clock, and they're doing whatever they're getting into.
Right.
So yeah,
Now it's the Door Dashers who see all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of behind on it now. I'd have to do it on Door Dashers.
Yeah, that's today's version.
Oh, Robert, you got to see Taxi Driver, man. You got to put that on your list. It's a classic. Matt's saying Road Warriors in his top 5, as well as Day of the Dead. You're a good kid. Yeah. I knew Matt was gonna like your Day of the Dead. Which you have a great video on your channel about Day of the Dead as well, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And Robert, shut up. I mean, don't be fooled. Martin is not all that. Come on. Robert's not a Martin fan. My lunatic, I kick ass for the Lord. There you go. Chetzar says, have you seen Scorsese's The King of Comedy? Super great, underrated Scorsese film, and way ahead of the curve on a lot of social issues. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
Like I said,
probably like my second favorite from him, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's up there, man. I love Goodfellas. Raging Bull is one that I'm not as big of a fan of as I feel like I should be. Like, I feel like there's just some disconnect there for me.
I kind of agree. Yeah, I like it, but it was never like, it didn't really hit me the same as the other ones.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Same.
It's weird too, because I saw Joker in 2019. Like, I saw Joker before I saw Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. But then I went and I watched those two movies, and I was like, oh, Joker's just kind of like a modern day like mixture between those two movies. So I was like, no wonder I like all these. Like, they're all just kind of the same.
Yep. It's basically, basically just a take on Scorsese's career, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Robert said, I joke a bit about Martin. I've only seen it once. I need to give it another chance. Yeah, you got to give it multiple chances. You need to give it as many chances as you can give it until you come around on the brilliance of John Amplis's performance in that film. Damn it. Granny says, Alpha saw the furries having a party in the glory days. I did. That was one thing I walked in on when furries were having an orgy. I walked in on a furry orgy. They did tip well, so it was whatever. But yeah, it was.
They tend to be wealthy, those guys. They have good jobs.
Steven says, I really like your picks. Definitely surprised you know as many of these films as you do. Usually, kid your age probably would talk about the greatness of the Minecraft film. Happy you're unique. There you go.
Thank you.
See, us old heads, you're impressing us. So.
Good to know. I will say the Minecraft movie was surprisingly funny. I'll say that.
I've never seen it. I probably won't, but
you don't need to, honestly.
Not my generation, I guess. Not my thing. Chetzar says, I feel the same way about Raging Bull. I feel like I'm missing something. Yeah. I've just never, like, I've seen it a couple of times, and every time I'm just like, it's well made, it's good, but it's like, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't hit me like a lot of Scorsese stuff from around that time.
Yeah, because it's like Scorsese's doing his thing. It's like, he's got his character study films like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, King of Comedy. And it's like, for some reason, like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy just kind of, I don't know, they feel like more fleshed out character studies.
Yeah.
Like those are more like psychologically twisted characters. And then Raging Bull, I feel like it's not so obvious what the guy's problem is. Like it's almost like he's like stupid or something, or he doesn't seem
Right.
so like intricately messed up like mentally. It's
Yeah.
like Travis is kind of like a psycho, and it's like the guy from King of Comedy, like he's got his own like weird like narcissism and like fantasies and stuff. And then Raging Bull, it's like he's not like a smart psycho. He's just kind of, I think he's just kind of like short sighted as far as I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like I said, just something's never clicked with me. Maybe one of these days. Maybe it's one I gotta watch 3 or 4 more times. I don't know. Um, Robert says, "Hey, no, Mike, I told you I thought his performance was amazing." Oh yeah, you did say that. It's hard to deny. Tarantino called Amplis's performance in Martin the best performance in any Romero film, and Amplis I think has that printed somewhere at his
Hey,
tables at conventions. So high praise, high praise.
very high
Um,
praise.
Granny says, "Dude, I saw the Minecraft trailer and nearly had a nervous breakdown in the theater." Man. And Grande's closer to your age than my age, so Grande's
Oh yeah.
in his mid-20s, so but he's an old soul for sure. Um, yeah, I did see that Stezio. Shit, my computer's freezing up again. But yeah, Udo Kier, yeah, just passed away. I just heard that today too. Suspiria. I first knew him when I was a kid from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. That's what I knew him from. But then growing up, like he was in Suspiria and he was also in Mother of Tears. Argento's Mother of Tears. Years later, he kind of came back for that role. But yeah. Sucks. I didn't see how old he was. Anybody know how old he was? But yeah, very unfortunate. Steven says if you like boxing, I think that helps when watching Raging Bull. Yeah, I guess maybe that's it. I'm not a big boxing fan, so love the film, but I'm also an old school boxing fan. Yeah, maybe that's it. I'm not a big boxing guy either, so 81. Okay. Well, he had a full life. That was good. That's good. That's all we can hope for. Like I would be thrilled if I make it to 81. So I'll accept that. But
That's above the average, right?
yeah, I think the average life span now is fuck. I don't remember. I remember hearing it a long time ago, early 70s. I want to say somewhere around there.
I think so, yeah.
Still pretty good, but Jetstar says I worked on Ace Ventura 2. What did you do on Ace Ventura 2? You gotta let me know about that. I grew up on Ace Ventura, man. I'm a huge Jim Carrey guy. Love Jim Carrey. Flesh for Frankenstein is a trip. One of Udo's most interesting performances. Okay, that's one I've never seen either. Flesh for Frankenstein. Sounds like a Hammer horror film or something back in the day. I'm not a big Hammer horror guy, but yeah, good to see everybody in the chat. I do have a couple of clips from a couple of your videos, from your Dawn of the Dead video. I want to play, and then we'll talk about.
Hey, sure.
Coming up here. So this is from. So everybody check out. It's at Orion Trips. This is a clip from a video he did called Dawn of the Dead: Addiction to Information. I've shared it with friends. I mentioned it's one of the better like videos on Dawn of the Dead I've seen on YouTube. So check it out. I highly recommend it. But here's a clip from it to kind of dive into some of the topics that I want to talk to you about tonight. So yeah, everybody check this out. This is a clip from Addiction Information and Dawn of the Dead over on the Orion Trips channel. Check it out.
We interrupt this program. This is a national emergency. Important instructions will follow.
Those of the television generation can likely recall a time when their TV blared out an automated weather alerts or Amber Alerts or even just a test message. There's an initial strike of fear when it first plays, when the running program is interrupted and the uninvited roar of compressed computerized noise shrieks out to announce itself. It certainly is alerting. The unease only continues as the cold, automated voice delivers its inhuman PSA.
Destroyed. Considerable damage to homes, businesses, and vehicles is likely, and complete destruction is possible.
I think there's a universal distaste for these occasional alerts because of how out of place they are. For many years, there has been an aversion to the idea that the entertainment boxes we worship would, almost betrayingly, announce a real threat. It's a blood-chilling switch from colorful friend to stern authority in a shocking instant. A particular kind of horror can be found in that. For the older generations, who had a very solid conception of television as an escape from the real world and its troubles, for it not to live up to that reputation was just as scary a notion in fiction as it was in real life. That the television would legitimately scare you was a frightening detail of both Romero's black and white Night of the Living Dead and the later Dawn of the Dead, primarily because, as a collective, we've somewhat relied on televisions and media as a whole to be anything but uneasy. And Romero, as with the shopping malls, took what we knew, what we were comfortably familiar with, and turned it inside out, taking our unchallenged mental behaviors for a ride to a world where these things were no longer so appealing or so nice. And if that truly frightened us, maybe there was some self-reflection to be done. Were we bonding with these things in the wrong way? Were we too used to pleasurable media to which we gave no second thought?
However, reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured.
And yet, in spite of this early perversion of mass media organs, effectively scaring an audience raised and fed by a jolly, happy-go-lucky style of television and radio, Dawn of the Dead also explores how unflinching our commitments to it are regardless. If the horror is found in what the televisions say, then the social commentary is found in the fact that the characters still listen, far past the point of necessity.
So, first and foremost, I gotta point out the whole National Weather Service thing, that whole point that you bring up is so fucking true. Because I grew up in Kentucky, and we had, every year there was always a tornado season. And I grew up, we knew what to do, tornadoes are coming, whatever. So I grew up terrified of tornadoes. And you're absolutely right when you say that so you're like, you're sitting there watching TV, you're watching something, I was probably watching wrestling or something like that growing up, and all of a sudden you'd get that, and it would just scare the living shit out of you because it felt like there was an interruption to your life, and there was something to be afraid of, and things, I couldn't explain it, and I've never thought of it. I kind of attributed it to it because one of the aspects of, so like I said, the first zombie movie I ever saw was Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead from 1990, and one of the most effective things about that movie that I think kind of got my attention, the first time I really saw this in a movie, was when they discover the TV upstairs and they plug it in, and there's the emergency broadcast system on the screen. There's no news or news guy yet. It's just and it reminded me so much of like when the tornado was coming, and then we'd get those tornado warnings on TV, and how that always scared the shit out of me. So there is something psychologically there to that aspect of Romero's films, the use of the TV and the idea. It's like right here on my screen, the scroll at the bottom with the emergency rescue stations. It's like that has always been such a fascinating aspect of Romero's films to me, is his use of the news and media and the emergency broadcast system. And you point out in that video as well the idea that the beauty of a zombie apocalypse and being able to use use the news and the whole, it's a slow boil is what you put it as. It's like if somebody drops a nuke on us and the world ends that way, it's like we don't have time to slowly digest everything the way that we do in a zombie apocalypse, like in George's films. And I don't know, just the way that when I saw that in your video, I was just like, man, it like totally put two and two together for me for the first time. I was just like, yes, there is something about that damn transmission, that screeching sound, the lifeless robotic voice, you know, telling you that there's danger on the way and to be prepared, and that is so prevalent in George's films. All the way through. And I think that's one of the most like magnetic parts of George's films to me, is his use of that fear that that I had as a child when you know the tornado warnings would come up. Um, so yeah, just I just wanted to say like that's probably like the one part that was the first moment in your video where I was just like, holy shit, like the light bulb just came off. So how did you feel like when you first started watching when you started thinking about these films on that level, like when did you kind of put those two things together? Like what about that hit you to where you were like, oh, I see what he's doing there?
It's a good question. I guess maybe it's always the case that you kind of feel called out, maybe. Like if a movie really speaks to you, like if its criticism really jumps out at you, there's an element of like, oh, it's actually calling out me a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I think because I can relate to what you're talking about with like the emergency broadcast stuff, like just kind of being scary. Because that's for some reason, just like I have childhood memories of that where it's like, I'm like in bed or I'm on the couch or something and I'm kind of snuggled up in a blanket and maybe I'm watching like a movie or a cartoon or whatever. Like I'm just kind of enjoying my night or my day, whatever, and I'm getting comfortable, like, not a care in the world. And like the TV is my friend in this moment. And it's like maybe unhealthily so. I'm kind of connected to the television and it's like a bonding experience with the screen. And then it's like at the drop of a dime, like it's not my friend anymore. It's like, oh, you know, here's this beeping, like this authoritative, like cold voice on the screen. And it made me kind of scared. I'm like, what happened? Like I thought we were friends, you know what I mean? There's something else, there's
Why
something
are you
unhealthy.
doing this to me?
Exactly. It's like you start to personify the TV a little bit. It's like, wait a minute, like we're friends. Like I thought you were here to be nice to me, and now you're telling me like scary things and making me feel afraid. Um, and so I remember that when I was a kid, and I think that just kind of popped back in my head when I saw Dawn of the Dead. I was like, man, like these people are really like they put a lot of stock in the television. And actually, I think I mentioned Night of the Living Dead in this video too.
Yeah.
Just like how that's the impulse is like, you know, the TV is our best friend. Like when things are going down, the TV, like we got to find a TV. We got to set up a TV. We got to get the antenna going. We got to get a signal. We got to turn this on, see who's talking. Cause like societally, it's like they just all have this bond with the television. Like it's their friend. And I think
Mm-hmm.
and I could relate to that where I was like, like maybe I've put a little too much stock in the TV. Um,
And that's kind of a prevailing thing throughout, especially Night and Dawn, which we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but especially like in Night of the Living Dead, there's the quote when Tom and Judy are making the Molotov cocktails, and Tom says, "Well, that's what the TV says to do, like so that must be the right thing to do." It's like
right.
their trust is fully in on what the news guy is saying on the television, and what the plan, what they're telling you to do is what you need to be doing, whether it's viable for you to do or not. Um, and and yeah, I mean, it really, and like I said, I think that's the thing that kind of separated Night of the Living Dead when it first came out from a lot of the other, monster horror films at the time, was it, and the TV played a big role in it. It took, and it's what George was going for. It took the horror out of, the mythical, the castles, and brought it right into your living room, literally right into your living room. And the characters in that don't know what's going on. They don't know what to do. So they all gather around the TV and are just like waiting. Like that's the whole thing throughout the whole movie. It's like, is it 3 o'clock yet? There's going to be another broadcast at 3 o'clock. It's just like that's what they fight over. What's one of the things that they're arguing over is the TV and the radio, because they're desperately seeking any kind of information or something to tell them what to do, as opposed to just figuring it out themselves, which they would have probably been better off doing anyway if they would just
Yeah,
work together, you
exactly.
know.
Yeah, it's like it's a
Um,
group of like very capable people who could probably figure out something pretty good. Like they could probably figure out a plan, you know, to make it on their own. But like it's like a people have lost faith in themselves, and that faith is being put in the television instead. It's really interesting. It's like, well, wait, if we just like stopped putting our faith in the TV and like reclaimed it and like believed in ourselves to do something about this, like maybe we could actually survive. But it's like they do kind of end up dying because they're so sure that what they need to do is going to be dictated by what they say on the TV. Like
right.
that's if there is a course of action, like the TV is going to tell me. Like and it's like they've kind of forfeited their own autonomy, like their own ability to plan.
Yeah. And you know, even going into Dawn of the Dead, it's like as soon as they get to the mall, what's the, you know, the first thing when they get into the J.C. Penney's, I'll get a television and a radio. It's like that's their first instinct is we got to get some information, you know. Even though they just came from that world and they saw the chaos that the TV station had become, and they're still like, okay, well, we still need to be in touch with this. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's always been, and then then like we mentioned earlier, in Night of the Living Dead, the news broadcast is still very buttoned up, very formal, very official, and then as things deteriorate, the broadcast deteriorates to the point where they're just screaming and yelling at each other about, dummies, dummies, dummies. They're just calling each other names and, cussing at each other, and I don't know. It's I don't know. I think that's one of the most like under talked about aspects of the Romero's Dead films that I always thought was. I mean, as you can see, I mean, it's influenced the stuff on my channel. The intro video is all about the news broadcasts and the emergency broadcast system. Like that's always played a major role in those films for me. That brought on that the horror and the terror of the situation. Um, and I think, and like I said, I think it just goes back to when I was a kid and hearing those, the emergency broadcast system for, tornadoes or whatever. And I still get it now. I still feel that way now. Like if I'm like driving down the road, listening to the radio or something like that, and they do like even just like a test, they do like the weekly test pattern or something sometimes around here where you hear that, it's still like there's a sense of fear that hits me all of a sudden. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? Are we being bombed? Is it the Russians? What are we doing here? What's going on? It always goes to that, even if I know that it's just a test. Even.
Yeah, like I'll
Um,
get like Amber Alerts on my phone, and like that noise, I'm like,
oh,
okay, like it's over. The nukes
it's
are
the
here.
worst.
Like
It's the worst.
every time.
You're always so afraid to just look at it to see what it is, and it's not great to say, but sometimes you're just like, oh, it's just an Amber Alert. Thank God. It's
And
like
yeah,
we're not
because like
we're not we're not being bombed yet, so it's good. But I mean, that definitely played a role because George always talked about the thing that scared him growing up because he grew up, in the 50s and 60s in the middle of the Cold War. The thing that always he was terrified of the bomb, because he grew up, they had to do drills and they were always on the verge of nuclear war back in the day, and he was always so that definitely played a role in influencing George's stuff, and I think that probably seeped in, especially when it comes to those broadcasts that he incorporated into the films. Um, but yeah, I think just George's use of television and those type of I like I said, I think it's one of the most under talked about things. That's why I loved your video so much because you really dug in deep on that. And people always talk about, especially with Dawn of the Dead, they always talking about the consumer aspect of the mall and all that, like as George's social commentary. But there is definitely more underneath there when it comes to the television and radio and then the broadcasting and what what these characters are taking in, that I always loved. Um, um, Steven says, "How dare you criticize TV? Go to your room, Bart." Robert says, "As a kid, I remember that unsettling interruption on TV." Yeah, like I said, I think it's one of those things that, like, whether you know it or not, it's like it's one of the few things in life that it's like sure to instill fear into you almost automatically.
Because it feels like one of the earliest like betrayals. Because again, it's like you're a kid and like the TV is like your
Yeah.
source of happiness. For a lot of people, it's like, oh, this is my friend, you know. I come here to watch cartoons. And the first time you hear something scary, it's like, whoa, like I thought we were friends. I thought we were cool. Like what's going on here? It feels like a betrayal almost.
Yeah, especially, I mean, like I said, especially like when Night of the Living Dead was made. I mean, back then people gathered around, families gathered around, they had one TV in the house and they all gathered around it and they watched, Let's Make a Deal or what, whatever show. They'd get around and watch the 6 o'clock news with Walter Cronkite or whoever. And that was your trusted newsman. And the idea that your trusted newsman doesn't know what's going on and doesn't have the answers, and we gather around this TV not for entertainment or an escape at the end of the day, but because we don't know what else to do. Like, I think that was a new concept at the time, that I think added to a lot of the terror of the film.
Yeah, and just like the idea that it was insufficient, like it wouldn't work. It's like, turns out, folks, the TV's not gonna save you.
Yeah,
That's kind of just, that's a very like surface level read of like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, but it's like you could sum it up as that, I guess. Like, yeah, the TV will not save you.
Well, I always kind of chuckled at that line when Tom and Judy are making the Molotov cocktails, and it's like, well, that's what the TV says to do, so it must be the right thing to do, type of thing. But then you get, like I said, you get into Dawn of the Dead, and at the very beginning in the TV station, it's like there's a battle going on in this TV station of whether or not they should continue to run these bad rescue stations that are no longer in service, just for the ratings. Like that's
Yeah,
all Gibbons is interested in. It's like, well, if we don't have those rescue stations up, they'll tune out. And that he's still in that mindset of like, we got to get people to keep watching this TV. Um, and I think that was again ahead of its time. That idea that we'll disseminate misinformation or bad information just to keep people watching, because people are going to watch it anyway, because if those rescue stations aren't up, they're going to tune out. They're going to go somewhere else. It's
right.
just
Yeah.
it's part of the entertainment aspect of it. Stesio says, I remember being a kid and seeing the footage from Vietnam on the news. Yeah, that was a big thing back then too. And the Night of the Living Dead segments were exactly the same vibe. George was a genius that way. Yeah, that was the first televised war. That was when people were first seeing what war was in their homes, and Night of the Living Dead kind of captured, because everybody always talks about Night of the Living Dead kind of has a documentary feel to it, in certain ways, and I think that definitely played a role in it as well. Which is a great documentary. Have you ever seen the documentary? I think I mentioned this last week to Eric, but great documentary called the American Nightmare, that IFC produced years ago. They kind of get into that with the idea of like Vietnam and televising Vietnam, and that seeping into the American zeitgeist, and influencing the horror films and stuff, and just films in general that came out around that time. Have you
Hmm.
ever seen that documentary?
I don't think so. What was it called again?
The American Nightmare. It's from like
Okay.
2001, I think.
I don't
Um,
believe so, but I might check that out.
Definitely, it's a high recommend. It's one of my favorite it's one of the documentaries, like when I first saw when I was a kid, when I was like 13 or something. Like when I saw that kind of changed the way that I watched horror and the way that I thought about what horror movies could be. Because growing up, it's just like Freddy and Jason. And it's just like, oh, it's scary movies. When you watch this, it's like, oh, I can see horror films can mean more. They can say more. There can be more to them. And it covers Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Last House on the Left, all those films from the 70s.
Oh wow.
Definitely highly recommend that one. Chetsar says, totally agree with you guys about Romero's use of news channels and emergency broadcast system. It's scary. Yeah. Um, Steven says this was part of the greatness of Romero. He was ahead of the curve, questioning whether society could actually handle a real earth-shattering crisis. Um, and yeah, I mean, and Romero had that cynical side to him that it's like I was saying earlier with the crazy. It's like it's not really the problem itself is not really the hardest problem that these characters have to solve. It's the battle with each other. And that's a permeating theme throughout all of Romero's Dead films, really all the way through. I mean, especially in Day of the Dead. Um, it's we all got different ideas concerning what we want out of life. It's like it's true. It's right. That's the biggest battle. Like we can't agree on anything because we all see the world in different ways.
Yeah.
Ed, what's up, my man? Ed Trader, Music and Entertainment says late to the party, but I'm here. Orion, I love the Dirty Harry video on your channel. Hope everyone's doing well. So there you go. Yeah,
Hey,
that's a
thank
good one
you.
too. I just watched that one the other night. I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan, so.
Me too. Have you seen the spaghetti westerns?
Oh yeah, I've seen quite
Yeah,
a few.
yeah.
Not all of them, but I love the the Man with No Name stuff. Sergio Leone, Good and Bad and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars. Yeah,
Do you have
I
a
grew up on Clint
favorite
Eastwood.
from those three? Like the three Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood movies?
Man, I know it's probably cliche to say at this point, but like Good and the Bad and the Ugly to me is a flawless movie. Like I remember watching that for the first time, and like you can see like all the filmmakers and stuff that I liked at growing up, you know, in my development of like finding all these movies. I love Tarantino and all that, and I could see in that movie. I was like, oh, that's where Tarantino got that. Oh, right,
Yep.
that's where they got that. Like that set the standard to me, and I think Tarantino said that that's his all-time favorite movie. So yeah, it has to be The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. That's as perfect of a movie. That's up there with like Taxi Driver and other stuff from that time period that we talked about, where it's just like
Yeah.
it's a standard, man. But the
Probably one
first
of the
two are classics as well. So it's hard to. Tarantino said
Indeed.
that that's like the perfect trilogy to him, where every movie got better. Like usually you get a trilogy and it's like, you know, they fall off somewhere where the third one's not as good as the second one or vice versa, or there's always a weak link. But that's the trilogy that's like it just kept gaining steam and into this great crescendo of an ending.
Yeah, I love how the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, it builds up into like an epic. Like that film is just an epic. I feel like they
Yeah.
don't make things on that scale too often anymore. That's
No, I mean, like I said, like the closest that I've seen is Tarantino, but you know, although I like Ari Aster kind of has a little bit of that to him, in my opinion. But yeah, you just don't see you don't see a lot of movies like that anymore for sure. Um, Robert's saying that's one of the scariest parts of Dawn of the Dead if you think about it. False information, yeah, or just the lack of information to the point where they've given up on trying to give any information or any kind of help, to where they're just arguing about who's right and who's wrong. Um,
there's like one scene I'm remembering from Dawn of the Dead that's like maybe like sort of midway through or on the earlier side. It's kind of a small part, but I think like Fran is alone just watching the TV while the rest of the guys are on the roof, like staking
Mhm.
out, like looking at the trucks, and she's watching the TV by herself. And there's a guy on there who's kind of like tentatively saying like, oh, there's reports that they're supposed to be working on a vaccine for this
Yeah.
virus, maybe. And he's kind of just like, it's like it's a piece of news that like he heard from someone, and it's like it might be true. I'll give it to them. I'll tell the people this might be coming because they
Yeah.
need some breadcrumbs. And she's standing there, and she's listening to it, and it's like, I mean, obviously that wasn't coming to fruition. I mean, that guy he was kind of lying a little bit, but
Yeah, that's a
just
good
throwing
point.
out this this information where it's like, this is not verified. We don't know if this is true, but we gotta tell them something.
Yeah, but it's something.
Vaccine's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ed, Pale Rider is my favorite. Consider it The Man with No Name Part 4. Yeah, I grew up on Pale Rider. That's an all-time favorite too.
I have yet to see that one.
That's a good one. That's 85, I think, was Pale Rider. That's one of my all-time faves for sure.
Have you seen Two Meals for Sister Sarah?
That's one I haven't seen. No, I haven't seen
Really?
that one. Mm-mm.
Okay. I would recommend that. That's actually by the same director who did Dirty Harry.
Okay.
And it's a Western, yeah, with Clint Eastwood. It's him and a nun and a good time. I don't know. Like, they have a pretty funny chemistry.
I'm sold. Him, a nun, and a good time. I'm here. I'm with it. But yeah, I'm all for like checking out anything Clint Eastwood, especially from around that time. But that's one I
It w-
haven't gotten around to yet.
it's kind of like an epic in the way that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is. Like it's a very long movie, like spanning like a very, they travel a very far distance. There's sort of
Hmm.
an overarching goal. Like it feels kind of like epic in that same way. There's that sort of that grand scale. So it kind of scratches that itch a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out if I come across it. Um, Back to the Future. See, Back to the Future is kind of one that kind of falls into that category where Part Three kind of, I don't know, just a little, I don't know. Never been a big fan of Part Three in that series. Kind of falls off for me, but
I've only seen the first one, admittedly.
Steven says I'd love to rib Alpha, but The Good and the Bad, and the Ugly may be the best Italian Western ever made. I agree with that. Have you seen Once Upon a Time in the West, Sergio
No,
Leone?
I own it, and I've been wanting to watch it, but I have not done so yet.
That's
But yeah,
that's another classic spaghetti western from that time. Outside of the Dollars trilogy, the only other movie that could even be mentioned is maybe The Great Silence. I have heard of that one. That's one I've not seen either. And here you go. Stesio's pound for pound, Once Upon a Time in the West, best spaghetti western. And I'm Italian, so you have to take my word for it. There you go.
right.
The Italian has spoken. Um, but yeah, super cool. I have another clip here from that same video I wanted to play and kind of talk to you about. So this is from Orion Trips over on YouTube. Addiction to Information, Dawn of the Dead. Check this out, y'all.
Wave of murder which is sweeping the eastern third of the nation is being committed by creatures who feast upon the flesh of their victims.
Television plays an informative role in Romero's zombie movies. Newsmen deliver to the audience the undecorated statements of mass murder, resurrection, cannibalism, and all other horror which comes with a zombie apocalypse. Through TV, the characters learn, as we the audience do, the grim reality of their situation. Mainstream media, as we might expect it to, looks to both inform and aid their desperate viewers, to help the masses looking for help. Night of the Living Dead at least maintains this front. Despite everything happening outside, the news is steady, informative, straight-faced, and outwardly benevolent. Lists of available rescue stations are aired for the benefit of struggling survivors. The television is, in fact, that dependable father which the characters expect it to be. Even if it ultimately cannot save the group from their own bickering, infighting, and human shortcomings, television maintains a calm, reasonable face. A face which is, amidst all chaos, still trying.
What are you saying? I mean, you scientists.
Dummies!
You're suggesting...
Dummies! Dummies!
Excuse me. Listen, quiet.
The evolution, or perhaps devolution, of media in the time between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead is quite stark. Just about immediately, we can pick up on the heated, frantic, panicked mood of the new media machine. With the zombie outbreak on a nasty and inescapable rise, the systems of old world America are spinning out of control, and the operators losing grip are scrounging desperately to keep control of the reins. It's fascinating just how far into the outbreak the televisions stay on air. The broadcasts continue long after they cease to be polished or professional. Haphazardly slapped together studios which appear blatantly unfinished fill the backdrop of the later programs. The voices, which at the outbreak's beginning were once clean, orderly, decent, are now loud, inconsiderate. The pretense of First World Order sheds away so apparently in Dawn of the Dead so as to paint the last breaths of a crumbling regime. These last-ditch broadcasts are the terrible, callous, croaking cries of a behemoth on its deathbed.
Good shit, man. Good shit. Check it out. The whole video is awesome. It's about a 25-minute video, and you really dig it. And you talk about Fallout 3 in that as well, and some of the Fallout games. And I guess, what is it about? I want to get your opinion on this. What is it about humanity, society? What is it about our fascination with the end of the world? Where do you think that comes from? Where does that stem from? Because I mean, the popularity of zombie films and you know, there is this weird fascination with, and I for sure have it. I think that's one of the things that, because I think I mentioned this on the Revival House the other night. One of the first movies I remember seeing as a kid was Titanic, and that like scratched that itch for the first time, where it was just like everything is order, and all of a sudden it hits an iceberg, and the ship sinks, and everybody drowns, and it's just like everything falls into chaos. And something about that always piqued my interest about that movie, and it continued on. I mean, before that, I guess Terminator 2 kind of scratched that itch for me too. The whole idea of the Skynet taking over and the world coming to an end and all that shit. But there is a fascination that people have with the end of the world and all that. I was wondering what's your take on that. What is it about that fascinates us as a species?
I think there's a couple things on that. Like first and foremost, I feel like people can kind of tell there's a fakeness about our world, like the way we live in first world countries. Like we have all these comforts around us. We have, nice things. We have cushy jobs. We have, you know, all these first world comforts that just they make life really easy. They make life so you don't have to think about it. And I think there's this like deep primal longing in people um to have to think about life a little more seriously. Because that's kind of what we come from, I guess, evolutionarily speaking. Like we're kind of meant to be, trying a little bit harder to survive. And because now we don't hunt our own food anymore. You go to the grocery store and get your food.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one example. But it's like life is made so much easier for us now. And I think that's why people kind of fantasize about, the crumbling of everything, like, having all your comfort stripped away, having the world kind of reduced to a state of chaos. Cause then it's like begging something of you, like, oh, okay, like now I got to step up and do something, especially as a man. I think that's kind of like a masculine urge as well, like to want to be thrust into a position of like desperation and thus have your resolve tested, like to see, like, can I rise to the occasion? Can I do something? Can I protect myself? Can I protect me and mine? Can I, prove my worth? I think, yeah, people are kind of lacking in those tests. And I think um, they're kind of craving that. They're craving the test of survival. And
Yeah,
alternatively, just real quick, I guess like the second thing would be like, I feel like it's a common thing in these like zombie movies, Romero's films, like Dawn of the Dead kind of has this. Even like the remake of Dawn of the Dead has this element too. There's also like there's like a strengthening of bonds. On the one hand, in Night of Living Dead and like Day of the Dead, like people they're at each other's throats. Like people can be very uncivil in times of distress or conflict or chaos. But like, also alternatively, people can really band together. Like when their lives are depending on it, you can see this like insane like brothership and this ability for teamwork. Like dudes having each other's backs, like saving each other from zombies. Like people divvying up work. Like I'll do this and you do that, and we'll get it done together. I feel like this happens a lot in zombie movies too, and that kind of scratches the other itch people have just for like all out like brotherhood and camaraderie, where it's like we're just going to work together, put our differences aside, whatever minor differences we have, like we're just going to band together because we got to survive. At the end of the day, we got to keep breathing, we got to eat, so we're going to learn to work together. I think people kind of want that too, because we can get so divided these days and everyone's kind of picking out how we're different from each other. But I think, yeah, people want more cooperation. They want to just be able to trust each other like that.
yeah. I think when you tear down those barriers, those dividing barriers, whether it's race or religious preference or sex or whatever, it's like at the end of the day, I think people do want that camaraderie again, like you said, and I think it, and I think I've mentioned this before, but in Dawn of the Dead especially, like it feels like those characters are at their best when they're working together to accomplish a goal. Like their goal is to secure this mall, put up the walls, block off the entrances, wipe out the zombies, clean them up. They're at their best when they're working together for a common goal. And as soon as they achieve that goal and they have, their reward, which is the mall and everything they want, and the comfort, and all the security that the mall brings. That's when those characters start to take a dive. That's when they start to deteriorate, on a human level. When you get Francine, what have we done to ourselves? And they're all sitting there in their new clothes, and they're drinking, listening to records on the fancy stereo equipment, and throwing money around. And it's just like, yeah, we've accomplished all this. And that's kind of, and I think George was trying to say this in so many ways, but that's kind of where society has kind of gotten, and over, long periods of time, is that we've worked to build this cushy, comfortable society for ourselves, but that's also what breeds our discontent, and to the point where we start to collapse. Whereas, like, when we're working together to get those things and make those things happen, that's when the best of us comes out. Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think it's really prevalent in Romero's work for sure. Um, Another thing that you talk about, especially in your Day of the Dead video, um, but I've noticed this is a common theme in a lot of your videos, is the idea of letting go of, especially in Romero's films, that because in Night of the Living Dead, so in Night of the Living Dead, the timeline, it's all starting. Nobody knows what's going on. It's the world is falling into chaos. The apple cart is being upset. By Dawn of the Dead, they're trying to adapt. They're trying to adjust to that world, to the point where I mentioned this last week with Eric, but the scene in the cellar in the tenement when the priest comes out and he has that line, "We must stop the killing or lose the war." I always kind of took that on surface level of just like, oh, we have to stop killing each other if we're going to get anywhere. But also, we have to stop killing the zombies as well, because when just killing in general deadens the soul to a point where, the very next scene after that, they're in the basement executing the zombies, and you can just kind of see a part of them dying on the inside as they do it. Peter's got the tear coming down his cheek, and it's like, as the movie progresses, it's like they're killing these zombies with less and less, um, regret or any feeling about it whatsoever. It's just like, oh, this is what we have to do. We have to shoot, which we just have to get rid of them. We have to shoot them. We have to get rid of them. To the point when the biker gang invades the mall at the end, Peter kind of goes off where he's just freewheeling, killing these guys one after another with no sense of regret or even thinking twice about it. Um, and I think that's an interesting aspect of Romero's of Dawn of the Dead too, is that it's like at some point they kill off a piece of themselves to get to where they want to go, and when they get there, it's not, there's nothing left on the inside, which I think you've mentioned before in one of your videos too, like one of the shorter videos. You've kind of talked about like the idea of like your conscience, and how you shouldn't waste it and abuse it. I love that one. It's like a 2 or 3 minute little video, but it's like you're just
Yeah.
preaching, and I'm just like, yeah, man, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, you can abuse yourself mentally in that world too, to the point where you kill off, and the priest is saying, it's like, if we lose our humanity and we lose what separates us from these things, then we're no better than them in the end, and it's over. Like, so I always thought that was an interesting aspect of it as well.
Yeah, on that point, I think there's an interesting element of like pride in the characters in Dawn of the Dead. Like, they're so self-assured that the zombies are just others, and there's not a world, like there's not a chance that they themselves could become zombies. They're like, oh, no, 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 we're humans, and like they're them, and we're gonna stay humans. But then it's like, of course, over the course of the movie, like Roger gets infected, and this is like a reminder, like, wait a minute, like we can get infected too. Like, we're not necessarily so much different from these zombies. And also the idea that because the shopping mall is almost like this power that like four people are not supposed to wield all by themselves. Like it's like you're saying there's like a deadening of the soul. Like they earn this kingdom of consumer comforts, but it's like as humans, I don't know if we're meant to have all this stuff. Like it's just it kind of kills you. And there's
Yeah.
this pride they have though, where they're like, nah, like we earned this and we can enjoy this, and we're gonna enjoy this, and it's not gonna do anything to us. But then it's
And
like
that
over time, yeah, and then they're wrong.
I was
It's
just
like
gonna
over
say that
time,
that thinking is what ended ended up bringing on the downfall of Stephen when he's like, it's ours, we took it, it's ours. Like instead of starting this war with the bikers that are running through, why not, just preserve yourself and preserve your own life as opposed to trying to preserve this shopping mall, that you think is yours, but it's not. It's a place with stuff, and that's part of
yeah.
the the loss of your humanity, I guess, is where you're more concerned about keeping all your stuff and keeping all these goods and the comforts and everything that come with it, to where you're willing to sacrifice your own life to protect it. Like it's yeah, it's weird.
Well, it's crazy because it's just like the priorities are all out of whack. Because I'm just remembering now. I mean, Fran is pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
Steven's a father, or he's gonna be a father. And it's like, bro, I mean, you should be getting your wife out of there. You should be getting you and your wife out of there. Like, you shouldn't be picking this fight. Like, you got a baby on the way. So it's like it's crazy how warped his mind gets by all
Yeah.
this, material stuff. It just totally sours him.
Yeah. It's and yeah, Dawn of the Dead. Getting back to what I was saying about like the theme of letting go. It's like Dawn of the Dead. These characters are clinging to the society that they once knew. The reality that they have known their whole life. Their whole intent is uh is just to hang on to that as long as possible. And George kind of revisits that later on in Land of the Dead, because they literally do just seal off a city and try to go about life as normal. It's like, oh, we have restaurants and we have, a fancy high rise now, and all the stuff that's happening outside the walls here, don't worry about it. It's happening out there. We're good in here. Kind of the same thing in Dawn of the Dead. And then you get to Day of the Dead, and at this point the characters are still having that battle where they're trying to figure out, they're trying to find the answers of how do we fix this, how do we go back to normal. You're trying to find a cure, you're trying to find a way to to train these zombies into doing what you want them to do, or if you're the soldiers, you're just saying fuck it at this point, where let's kill them all, which is not something, it's not a real answer. But then you got the John character who's saying fuck all this, it's time to let go, it's time to move on, it's time to start fresh, get some babies. It's time to find an island somewhere, get juiced up, and spend what time we got left soaking up some sunshine, because living is more important than trying to, save the ghost of whatever society that we used to know, and I think you do a great job of the like I said, that kind of thread of these characters that are struggling to let go of what once was, and just accepting things for what they are. I think is a really interesting point about that.
I definitely think, yeah, like John from Day of the Dead is one of my favorite film characters, like ever, easily. And one of the reasons is because, like you're saying, he's the only guy there with like the humility to admit, like, look, like I'm not gonna solve this. I don't know what's going on, but like I have the humility to admit that, and like I know we got to get out of here, And everyone else has this pride about them. Like Captain Rhodes is like, oh, we can just shoot them all in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Logan is himself kind of crazy because he does successfully train Bub to be kind of civilized and stop attacking, but it's like you're gonna do this for every zombie. Like it took you a lot of effort to train one zombie to do this, and you're gonna do this for all of them. So it's like he's also just totally out of his mind. He's
And
also kind of just
he's just more like, I don't even think he's trying. Like, I've never thought that Logan was trying to actually find a solution to the problem, as opposed to just trying to impress himself, or trying to prove his own theories of like, oh, you can train these things. It's like, okay, but now what? You're right. Like, well, okay, now what? He's not thinking that far. He's just saying, oh, I'm proving my own theories and doing my own thing at this point, and he's completely lost his mind in the process.
right.
Um,
And there's that line where Rhodes is like, you're teaching him party tricks.
Yeah.
This is it. Like,
You want to
he's
teach
right.
him tricks?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to lead to anything good. But John, I mean, and then of course Sarah, her whole idea is like, we got to find out, we got to find a cure or find out what's making it happen. If there's some way we can reverse the problem, she's the one really that's still fighting to try to save what once was, trying to save the society and the world that she once knew, and trying to go back to that. And John is smart enough to know like that there's no going back. Like it's time to let go and move on to something else. So I thought that was very keen on your part to see that.
Yeah, I'd say it's what makes Day of the Dead probably my favorite of the trilogy, or for a while it's been, just for that theme. Yeah, I think it really does the letting go theme like the best. It's the cleanest execution of that.
And it does, and again, it probably goes to George's cynicism, like cynical side of it does make you question, like, yeah, if something like that were to happen, is society worth saving? Like, is the life that we lead now, is that something that we should really be striving for in that situation, or should we just, get on the helicopter and find an island somewhere and just enjoy being alive and stop worrying about, all the charts and the records and making all, writing everything down and, like, it's over.
Yeah, it's like all the stuff's gonna be buried down here. Who
Yeah.
cares? No one's ever gonna read this.
Right. It's a great big 14-mile tombstone.
Yeah. That's one of the best speeches in any movie, just gotta say.
It is. It's a fantastic monologue. That's one of those scenes that anytime it's on, like, because a lot of time these movies, I've seen these movies hundreds of times at this point. Anytime I'll have it on in the background while I'm working on something. But anytime that scene comes on, it's like that's one I got to stop and just watch and just kind of, because it's fucking brilliant.
Mhm.
Chitsar says whenever people piss me off, I always quote dummies. Yeah, it's it's saying prices keep going up and we will start hunting for food again. Hey, yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah, soon enough.
I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, is society worth saving? Because, I mean, AI is right around the corner. And that's like a common theme on this channel. Anytime I come, I'm just like, what do you think about AI? Where are we headed with this? Because shit's changing quickly. I'm going to say that. Chance, what's up, my man? Chance 2D is in the house. Says he basically made a documentary about how we all felt subliminally about the news media, Night and Dawn. That was brilliant. Always noticed how the media fell apart in Dawn. That's right. And is there a link to this channel? I gotta watch. Yeah, it's down in the description, my man. It's at Orion Trips. It's down in the description. Definitely, everybody go over, subscribe to his channel. Like I said, he's covered some Romero stuff, but he covers all things. I know you just recently did one for the Breakfast Club, which was awesome. I love that one. Really, really good stuff. So yeah, everybody check it out at Orion Trips. Like I said, link to his channel's down in the description. Everybody go give him a subscribe or a sub, as they say. Chin says then you can see Roger laughing when he is running over zombies with a truck. Exactly. Descending into madness as he wipes the blood with his windshield wipers that Priest was warning about getting desensitized. Yeah, and George always talked about when he was making Dawn of the Dead, like his whole thing was he wanted to make that movie as violent and bloody as he did because he wanted the audience to feel that desensitization as the movie progressed. Whereas, like, you first see when the movie starts, first thing you see is, the young cop getting shot in the head, like just out of nowhere. Because that's a brilliant thing, because it's like when the movie started, usually in a movie, when you get introduced to a character like that, like we get his first and last name. He's like, oh, Rod Tucker. It's almost like we're getting introduced to a main character, and then Romero immediately kills him off to throw you off, to just be like, oh shit, like I don't know who am I supposed to be following here?
Yeah.
and then you see the head explosion and the bites, and it's like, oh, at first, like, if you're seeing that for the first time, especially back in 78, 79, it's just like, oh wow, like Jesus. And then by the end of the movie, you've seen so many headshots and bites and so much going on, but that you're desensitized to it at the end, just like these characters became desensitized to the killing of these things as they went along, to the point, it was just another thing to them at this point. Yeah, Possession was Flyboy's downfall. That's right. Chin says that's what makes Romero's movies so great. George wrote layers and layers to the world and character building. I agree, and I often wonder, like, if he really, if it was a subliminal thing on his part with a lot of this stuff. 'Cause it's always in question, because if you ever tried to bring it up to him when George was alive, there's so many interviews out there. One in particular, it's a brilliant interview that Guillermo del Toro did with him, where he sat down with George and they were talking about his film career. And Guillermo would, bring up, like, oh, Martin, like, that movie, what you were trying to say with this aspect and this aspect, and he would get real deep into it, and George would just say, yeah, I don't know, I was just making a movie, He's very humble about it, like, but especially back then, at that time, George was kind of, cooking on all burners, and I think he knew what he was, especially, what we were talking about with the media aspect of it, because in the original script for Dawn of the Dead from the early 70s, which was a completely different film than what ended up getting made, the whole television aspect was still in there. Like, a lot of the dialogue from that ended up in the actual film was written. That's like the only thing that survived from that original screenplay. So George had that for sure in mind, from the very beginning. Chen says, I asked Terry if he came up with John's lines, because it seemed like Terry ad-libbed those lines, but he told me it was all George who wrote the lines for the John character. George was brilliant, yeah. Yeah, George definitely knew what he was trying to say with Day of the Dead, for sure. My Lunatic says, I like the way you said that. By day, that really, what the whole census reports were papers that were valuable only to a society that was, by that point, a ghost of itself. And we saw that in Don's intro. That's right. And that was the whole point of John's speech. It's just like, look at all this stuff. We got the charts and the graphs and the records of, all your favorite movies. And it's just like, what's it all going to mean, Sarah? It's all bullshit what you're doing here. It's all going to get buried down here, and it's going to be forgotten about one day, and then who gives a shit? And it's just like, he's right. Like, what are we doing? Especially now, it's over. Mai says, also, have you read the book version of Dawn? I have. Have you ever read the novelization of Dawn?
No, actually, I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, there is a novelization by the mysterious Susanna Sparrow that nobody's ever figured out who the hell that was.
Oh,
But there was
wow.
novelizations of Dawn and Martin from back in the day. That it takes a lot from the script that George did, and also adds a lot of the, like, there's certain differences to it. Like at one point in the mall, they discover a puppy in the pet shop that they take under their wing, and so there's a puppy in it, and there's differences to it. It's an interesting. I think the audiobook is actually on YouTube, if it's still up. But I remember listening to it a couple of years ago.
Is it like in the Dawn of the Dead remake, there's a scene where they use like a dog to like transport a walkie-talkie, and it's like for some reason the zombies aren't interested in attacking the dog. Is it similar in this book? Like the dog is kind of just like the zombies don't care about him.
It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of insinuated that the dog ends up dying in the end. I'm trying to remember, because I know when this, like, when Flyboy's coming up with the zombies and they're coming up the stairs, the dog in the book escapes and runs down the stairs towards the zombies and ends up getting torn apart. But
Oh, okay.
so I don't know. I'd have to go back and read that again. But I do remember that happening and thinking, like, oh, so they do eat dogs then. Okay. But that was always kind of a question too in Romero's universe, is like, do the zombies eat animals as well? Which he kind of touches on in Survival of the Dead. And then if you remember in Night of the Living Dead, there's actually a zombie eating a bug off a tree. So it's like, do they eat animals and bugs, or do they not? If it's just humans, I don't know. Steven says Logan's insanity dovetailed into the chaos that was Day of the Dead. He fed off of it and thrived for a period until the wheels completely came off. Yeah. Yeah, that to me, like, I truly don't think that Logan's character was ever trying to actually, like, find a solution to anything that was going on. He was in his own world at that point, and he was just playing. He was just, testing theories and trying to figure out these things for his own benefit at this point.
Yeah, I think it
Just
was
to,
like he just wanted like to master something, because it's like the world is so gone at this point. There's like nothing to master. Like there's really not many things to achieve, and he's a scientist, so his mind is just like, what can I conquer next? Like, what can I
Yeah.
prove next? And it's like, mastering the zombie is kind of just the next. It's the only thing left to do for someone in his shoes.
Which, I mean, I don't know if that's like the wrong thing to do. I mean, we talked about letting go and the idea of just leaving this world behind. But I mean, if you're at this point where there's no solution, they have us outnumbered, by 4 million to 1 by my calculations. Like, he knows it's fucking over. So why not? He's fascinated with these things. So why not spend your time trying to figure them out? He's a scientist, he's a doctor, he's trying to figure them out. Maybe that's not the wrong thing to do. Like, why not? If you want to live out the rest of your days, playing with these zombies and figuring them out, go for
That's
it.
true. Yeah, I think it's like Rhodes is kind of resentful though, because it's like, look, dude, like my guys and I, like we're here, like spending time and resources, like defending you. Like we want some results, okay? Like if we're gonna be doing this, like we want you to solve the problem.
Yeah,
So
and
I guess
he's
he's
not wrong
not
about that
wrong.
either. Yeah,
No.
he's like, you've lost one man, we've lost 5. Like, they're the ones that are having to risk their ass to go out to get these things for Logan to play with
Yeah,
for no real
exactly.
reason.
Yeah, they're the zombie wrangling. He's not
So
doing anything.
So yeah, they all have a point, I guess. I don't know. Even though the fucking soldiers are batshit crazy at this point, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, poor Rod Tucker didn't have a chance, did he? Wooly went AWOL. Yeah, he kind of lost it, didn't he? Chitzar says, I saw Dawn. I'm gonna guess that's I don't know what Dan is, but I saw Dawn in the theater when it came out, and the violence was absolutely shocking. Yeah, there's actually like an audio. I think it's on YouTube somewhere, if I remember correctly. There's an actual audio recording from one of the first screenings of Dawn of the Dead back in the 70s that somebody took a tape recorder and recorded the audience's reaction. And you can hear just the gasps and the screams of the audience when, like the head blows up or the
Yeah, I was
first
gonna mention
bites.
it. Yeah. 'Cause that's
It's
really early
actually
on
pretty.
too.
Yeah,
Just the
yeah.
head explosion.
Yeah, people don't see that. Weren't used to seeing that shit as much. They, the years following, you'd get like the splatter era from the early '80s, when the slashers and stuff like that. So it kind of became a bit. Dawn was kind of the first of its kind in that way, really, especially on like a mainstream level. Yeah, Chin's the book was more depth to the overall story. Yeah, it really goes into some stuff like Fran's ex-husband. Fran was in the book, she was married to Charlie, at the beginning when she goes to get the rescue stations from Charlie. These rescue stations are expired. The old bald guy in the movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to think, but they were like ex-wife and ex-husband in the book. So it goes into
Oh.
more of that.
Wait, it's not his kid, is it?
I don't know. I have my own theories about that, but
Maybe that's why Steven didn't care. I don't know. This is getting interesting.
yeah, dude, I've sat and thought of I've written out a just a whole like backstory to these characters before, because my dream, which I'll never get it made and nobody will ever care to see it because it's not marketable whatsoever. My dream would be to do like a prequel to Dawn of the Dead that just focuses on who these characters were before. So I have like my theories about like, yeah, is Fran, does she even really like Steven, or did she accidentally just get knocked up by him by one night? So because if you watch their relationship in the film, it's very cold. Like, Fran is very like, yeah, Steven, whatever, and Steven's like desperately trying to get her approval and affection, and she's just very. So I kind of feel like their relationship there, if you look deeper, was probably like, oh, it's a one night stand, and she accidentally got knocked up, and now she's
Well,
stuck with this guy, type of thing.
yeah, like even when he tries to propose to her they're at dinner,
Yeah.
he holds out the ring and she's like, no, like, not now. This is not the right time. Which I don't know if that's like if she's being genuine or if she's saying no like the nice way.
I'm actually more into Peter. Actually, I'm just no thanks. Dude can cook. Yeah. PMC, what's going on, my man? PMC's Midnight Movie says, as you know, George has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Something curious is Stephen King doesn't. Oh wow, I didn't know that. I know Carpenter just got his some months
Yes.
back.
Yeah, well deserved.
Oh yeah, I would have guessed that. I would have been for sure that Stephen King would have had one by now. Jen says, "No way, Logan was just fucking around." Yeah, he was. He was just like he was just entertaining himself at this point. That's my theory, because he'd lost his mind a long time ago, and now he's just he's fascinated with the whole thing, and he's just doing it for himself at this point. Um, it says, when it comes to Logan, I think back to Ghostbusters. Ray says, "You have never worked in the private sector. They expect results."
I was just
That's
gonna
right.
say that, like, it reeks like Logan's used to like being in the government, where he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna like get no results, but you're still gonna protect me, you're still gonna provide me food, you're still gonna give me everything. It's like, well, wait, yeah, Rhodes is a private sector guy where he's used to results. He's like, look, okay, like we want something, all right. I'm gonna feed you this grub all the time and like protect you from the zombies. Like, show me something.
And Logan was just desperately trying to buy time, buy more and more
Yeah.
time. Just like, I'll show you results. It's like, what the fuck? And Rhodes is right. His reaction to it was like, what are we doing? Teaching them tricks? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? They're dead. They're dead, and you want to teach them tricks. Michelle says, this has been a great show to listen to. I really appreciate all the views that were discussed. Got to hit the hay, so I will bid you all good night. Well, thanks very much, Michelle, and hope your gingerbread cookies turn out good. And if I don't talk to you before that, have a good thing. Well, you're Canadian. You've already had your Thanksgiving this year. Never mind. But yeah, let me know how the gingerbread cookies turned out. But have a good night, Michelle. Thank you. Chin says, you guys got to check out 9mm Theater. The dude narrates an AM style radio show about a zombie outbreak called the Pace virus and how every city is falling by region from the virus. I think you've mentioned that before on here, Chance. 9mm Theater. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't believe so, no.
Let me write that down, because I'm gonna, like I said, I'm pretty sure you've mentioned that to me before. 9mm Theater. Very cool. Yeah, we'll check that out, my man. I'll let you know. Steven says, if you think about it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't anywhere near as gory as Dawn, but people lost their minds over TCM. Dawn really was one of the first really gory films that got some attention. Yeah. I always say Dawn of the Dead was the beginning of the slasher, 80s splatter craze. I think filmmakers saw what George did with Dawn and said, oh, we can do that. I mean, that's what Friday the 13th is. Friday the 13th was, hey, Halloween was successful, Dawn of the Dead was successful, let's put them together. Because there's no real gore or anything in Halloween either. So it's like, why not, make Halloween but with gore? And that's what Friday the 13th basically was. But you're right. I think that's the thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, is like, it's not nearly as bloody or gory as people remember it or think of it as.
So I've never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, I know it has kind of a stigma about it, but so if it's not super gory, like what's with the, like, why does it have the reputation that it has?
Wow, that's a whole discussion of it. To me, it's just the overall vibe of the movie. It feels very gritty. It feels very dirty. It feels very real when you're watching it. So it's another one it feels like a documentary when you're watching it. But I think it's the implied violence that's in it that it's almost subconsciously people saw it, and in their mind they're seeing Leatherface chainsaw Franklin to pieces in his wheelchair out in the woods. But when you watch it, it's very not tame, but just I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it kind of it puts it in your mind that this is happening, and your mind is filling in the blanks of, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so well done in that way that but there's just a grittiness to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there's like a realism to the way that it was filmed and the way that it was shot. I mean, the performances and stuff, because they were really filming in like horrible Texas heat when they were doing it. So all the actors and stuff were literally, they were there. They felt like they were in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre while they were making it. So I think it's just the overall vibe that movie gives off that people take more away from it than was actually there. I mean, in terms of the violence. But that's something that people have always talked about and wondered.
Yeah, that almost reminds me, kind of like Reservoir Dogs has a similar connotation to it, where it's like, You know, specifically like the torture scene where Mr.
Yeah.
Blonde cuts off the cop's ear. You know, that scene when the film was coming out, it's like people were walking out of the theater for that. Like it gave the film this insane stigma. Like, oh wow, this is a really violent, disturbing movie. And it's like the movie is like mostly dialogue, not that much violence, and it has that one torture scene. And it's not a violent scene. It's really not a violent scene. But like it's like you're saying, there's like an implied violence. There's like an implication to it just because Mr. Blonde is like enjoying it so much, and he has like this believable, like psychopathic demeanor to him, where he's like dancing to the music, and you know, eh, he's like enjoying it way too much. Like there's not that much actual violence on screen, but it's just the way that he approaches the torture is what's scary.
Yeah, it's like and I think it's the same that you could say for like Last House on the Left. It's like Last House on the Left, it's like all this horrible shit's going on, but there's like this weird like hippie 70s soundtrack to it with these songs that are just like wheels turning, and it's just like, but then it like cuts to something really brutal happening. And I think there's something about just it throws people off when the music doesn't match what they're seeing. So when like in Reservoir Dogs, when he's dancing to "Stuck in the Middle with You" and he's dancing and slashing the cop and stuff, it's like here's this scene with this popular song that everybody knows, and this guy's dancing to it, but he's also doing this horrible thing. I think that something about that triggers people's brains to where it makes something seem more effective than it actually is, where in their minds it's like they think of this song one way, but now they're going to forever think about it in another way because it's the backdrop to this horrible event. So I think it's like I don't know, it's a weird subconscious thing that's going on there with people, that makes that
This almost ties
more
back
effective.
into our talk about like the TV with Dawn of the Dead and stuff. Because like with the TV, there was the expectation of like comfort, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's scary when the TV is giving you something scary.
Yeah.
Um, and then like same thing with these like upbeat songs. It's like people know these songs for being like fun and like whimsical, and like you're out on the beach or going through the mall, whatever. Like the song is the soundtrack for like a fun, carefree life, and then using that song for a violent scene, it's like a betrayal in the same way that like the TV's showing you something scary is a betrayal.
Yeah.
Because you had association with the song, that was a very specific association, and now it's like being totally subverted. So I think you're right that that does throw people off because they're just
Yeah.
not used to it in that context.
Yeah, because there's like in Last House on the Left, there's aspects of that movie that some people complain about it, they don't understand, but I think there's something that is so necessary about it. So, like, have you ever seen Last House on the Left?
No.
Okay, so Last House on the Left was Wes Craven's first film from '72, and it's this very low budget, shot on 16 millimeter, but it's very the violence in it is very realistic. There's a it's we got a it's rape and torture, and it's rough. Um, But around all that, it cuts back and forth to these two cops that are like comedy relief, to where the music is like "Bop, bop, 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 bop," and they're like, it's like Three Stooges scenes where they're like falling off trucks and they're making jokes, and it's like it doesn't fit the whole vibe of the movie, but it's like this comedy relief has been thrown in between these awful scenes of torture and stuff. But something about that like throws you off mentally, to where you're watching something horrible happening, but then all of a sudden it cuts to these two cops being goofs, and it's like it's almost like a weird, I don't know, there's something uncomfortable about that. It's almost like two things that can happen in the world at the same time, something comedic and goofy,
Mm.
and also something completely awful. Both things actually happen in the world, and I think there's something. Well, I don't know if it was intended or not by Wes, but there's something brilliant about that I think it makes people really uncomfortable with that movie. Um, but yeah, that's one I definitely recommend checking out as well, if you're
Yeah.
interested in that.
No, that
'Cause,
sounds good.
um, let me see. Where was I? Let me hit these comments here. Have you guys seen the film Pontypool? I've heard people bring that up many, many times before. Have you seen that one?
No, that's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people mention it before on here before, but no, I have not seen that yet. Really, really great Romero zombie-inspired sci-fi horror. Pontypool. Yeah, that's another one that people mention all the time. That one and The Battery is another modern zombie film that people really put over a lot on here that I've yet to see. Which I've looked for The Battery many times, but I haven't come across it yet. So, um, let me see here. Chint says Logan was just lost in his own little world, dude. Lost it in A Quiet Place. That's right. That's true. He was off doing his own thing. Is there food? Desio says King may not care about a star on the walk. Whomever nominates must sponsor the $85,000 fee. Several people have declined, including Prince, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Madonna. Yeah, I've never been sure how that whole star on the walk of fame thing works, but yeah, I've always heard that you basically pay for it and then they give you one. So it's like I'm sure Steve was just like, fuck, I don't give a shit. Okay, Zombie Radio by 9mm Theater. Okay. I'll check that out. PMC says, did Fran and Peter hook up in the aftermath with Peter helping raise the child? Whatever happened after with them since the zombie apocalypse was far from over? That's the million-dollar question. I mean, not that whether they hooked up or not, but what do you think? What do you think happened after they flew off? Because that's a theory everybody's got.
They strike me as like they wouldn't be romantic. I don't think. I think they have a purely platonic relationship. Peter seems like just kind of more like a father figure. I mean, not quite a father figure, but he's just not really romantic, I don't think. But he would help raise the child, but like not as her husband. It'd be kind of weird. I feel like, yeah.
Although I do feel my buddy Will, when we just saw Dawn in the theater at the Monroeville Mall a couple weeks ago. And my buddy Will did point out that it was just like, I never really noticed it, but Peter is kind of cucking Flyboy through the whole movie when it comes to Fran, because Peter was always the one that kind of had to put Fran in her place and was just like, shut up and listen type of thing while Peter's standing or Flyboy standing by.
That is true.
So he was more of the strong silent type, whereas Flyboy was more of the desperate, like I gotta fit in, I gotta impress type, and women seem to go for the strong silent type more often, but
that is fair.
I don't know. Just a theory.
So she would go for him, and I don't know. I mean, maybe he would be like, I'm sorry, like I'm not interested. Maybe he would decline her. I don't know.
Start over, get some babies.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, PMC says Texas Chainsaw Massacre has such a sense of dread. You feel it's a hopeless situation. Yeah, I mean, all the way through that movie, even when nothing's happening, there's just the panning wide camera shots. I mean, it's a beautifully shot film all the way. I mean, that's another underrated thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that it's so well shot. The cinematography is amazing in that movie, but there's something about the way that camera moves while these characters are just walking around doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable, that you feel like something's around the corner. Get these comments here. Chin says Texas Chainsaw Massacre is terrifying because it feels like it can actually happen. Like imagine running into a psychotic family of cannibals. Hey, I'm from Kentucky, so yeah, I can tell you that there's some sketchy ass people out in the sticks. So yeah, it definitely could happen. Steven says, absolutely have to agree with Alpha on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also will add the population wasn't used to material like this. The Universal horror / Hammer horror films were the standard before and not as deranged. Yeah, I mean, that's, and going back to that documentary, The American Nightmare, I mean, that there was that period there in the late 60s and the 70s where horror had kind of come out of, the castles and the mythology and, the mystic settings, and it was now in your front yard, in your living room. The monsters were your neighbors now, as George always said.
There's something about that too. I'm like realizing with John Carpenter's Halloween, just that's kind of interesting. That was also new. Like just having a serial killer, like he's in your neighborhood on Halloween night while everyone's trick or treating.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was pretty new. That idea.
Let's see. Chin says is the perfect way to describe that scene with Mr. Blonde and how he was having a blast listening to. Well, it wasn't a Beatles song. It was. I forget who does it, but while torturing another man, that is literally insane. Who does that song? Stuck in the middle with you. Well, I don't know what I. Yeah, no, I don't. Can't remember who.
I knew, but
it's one of those like one-hit wonders. There you go. Stesio, Steelers wheel.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Thank you. Yeah,
sir.
Steelers wheel. There we go.
It says Tarantino said those upbeat songs to him were like ear torture, so that's where he got the idea. Okay, there you go.
Oh.
That's another good one, Steven. Singing in the Rain and Clockwork Orange. It made me
Good
stop
one.
thinking about Gene Kelly. Yeah. I always do that. If I'm taking a bath, I'm always in the bath, just like, I'm singing in the rain. Because I just think about it right to Clockwork Orange. PMC says, like Night of the Living Dead, Texas moves at a crisp pace, brilliantly edited. Yeah, I agree. Chetsar says the battery is good, but Pontypool is much better. You got to see it. All right. Well, it's on the list, man. Well, if I get it right, is it on Shudder? I think I've seen it on Shudder. Jen says I feel like Fran felt safe around Peter. Yeah, I think they all did. Mai says my brother was at Living Dead Weekend. He said Ken Forey said there was going to be a comic in production. Yeah. There's a. He did mention that there's a comic in production that kind of follows what happens to them after they escape the mall. So stand by for that one. Steven says if they live there may have been some jungle fever. Oh God, she would have had Peter's kid, but she probably would have Oh, come on, Steven. Since like an actual comic of Dawn, I would love to read a short comic about the aftermath of the WGON newscast after everyone left, or the police barricade around the apartments. I always thought that would be due for a sequel. Is whatever happened to the police officers that left the police dock and the boat? Whatever happened to them? That would have been a fun cast to follow around. Well, yeah, man. Let's see. Anything else I want to touch on? Anything you wanted to talk about, man? I know you said you had some topics, and we'll chat for a little bit longer, and I'll let you get out of here, man. We've been about 2.5 hours tonight, so I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a blast. I've loved this.
No, this has been fun. I'm down to chat for a bit more. I do have to use the bathroom, admittedly, so is it cool if I do that real quick?
Yeah, go for it, man.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right. So bathroom break. I guess I can talk about what's coming up later on. So Thanksgiving's Thursday. I don't know if I'll be doing a live stream next weekend or not. I'm kind of in the middle on that. I got family things going on, and it's a holiday season. Everything's running around. But I get you guys' thoughts on this. Would you guys be interested if I were to do a live watch along of American Movie, the documentary, Mark Borchart's American Movie? Because that, to me, is one of my go-to Thanksgiving tradition movies for some reason. I always watch that movie around Thanksgiving. So I'm bouncing around the idea of maybe doing that. So is that something you guys be interested in? Let me know. But yeah, going back to what you were asking, Chintz. Yeah, what he was saying was there's going to be like a comic book that follows what happens to Peter and Fran once they leave the mall. It's going to be kind of like an unofficial sequel, which there's actually a novel out there called, I think it's called Dead Reckoning is the name of it. It wasn't written by George or anything. It's kind of a fan fiction thing that kind of follows them after they leave the mall. So there is a novel out there called Dead Reckoning. You can sometimes find it on eBay. They're pretty expensive because I think it was a pretty limited run. But yeah, from what he was saying, there's I guess there's going to be a graphic novel or comic book series coming out that's a direct sequel to Dawn once they leave the mall. But yeah, it's okay. Yeah, man, he's pretty. Like I said, it gives me hope for the future. The Ute is pulling through. Smart kid, man. I'm digging his thoughts. Chutzar says, "Oh hell yeah, American Movie is my favorite." Yeah, dude, it's one of my favorite movies. Period. Favorite documentary. Favorite movies. Like it's one of those movies I can quote endlessly, and I do quote pretty much on a daily basis in my life. Like so. Yeah. So if that's something you guys be interested in, I might try to do that maybe Wednesday night or something like that before Thanksgiving, because we do a Wednesday night watch along. Maybe I'll see what Synth is up to if he's free to come on here with me. Chins is down. Cool, cool. Steven says if it's on Tubi, it's okay by me. I don't know. I don't know if it's on Tubi or not. Seems like everything is on Tubi though. You can pretty much find anything you're looking for on Tubi these days. I think it was on Amazon Prime recently. I think is where I saw it. But Chin says anything that adds to the lore of Dawn of the Dead is great. Yeah, I mean, I'll trust me. I'll read it. I'll look at it. Like I said, that book I've never read though, but it's definitely worth looking up if you can find it. Pontypool is free on YouTube. Perfect.
Hey.
I'm gonna write that down so I can look for it. I've been watching a lot of stuff on YouTube lately. YouTube's had so many like free movies and stuff lately. I just come across something I'm like not particularly interested in, but it's on YouTube, so it's convenient. So I'll just hit it and put it on the background. If I like it, I'll watch it. And if I don't,
Do you have premium, or do you have to watch it with ads?
I'm not sure. I have premium, so there are some channels that I think you can watch it without ads.
Like channels that just upload
YouTube movies or whatever. Yeah, because I watched what did I watch? Armed and Dangerous, the John Candy, Eugene Levy movie, which is one of my favorite comedies from the '80s. That was on there, but it was from some channel. It wasn't like an official channel. It was just LOL movies or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you can sneak one in there.
Yeah, I'm coming across so many channels now that are just full movies, free to watch. But yeah. So you said you had a couple of topics or something you wanted to talk about, man?
Yeah, I was just thinking of it. Yeah, I think just like yesterday morning, I was kind of thinking about it. I guess just the role of like female characters in the Living Dead trilogy, just like what George Romero does with the women. I was just kind of mulling it over. I don't have super well thought out takes on this, but I was just thinking about stuff like, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead kind of open in a very similar way, where it's like one of the first things that happens is we witness like a woman who's sort of panicked and like she's waking up from a bad dream and she's sort of in a state of distress. And that's kind of our first clue that things aren't quite right here. That like there's an unsettling tone to this movie. Like the world is not in a very safe state. And I was thinking about that, how interesting that was, like to open up both of those films with specifically, it's, the focus on like a woman waking up from a bad dream and how effective that is. Cause I feel like intrinsically, like as a society, we recognize like women are more vulnerable creatures. Like as men, we're supposed to protect them. As a society, we kind of pride ourselves on like making the world a safe place for women. And then both of those films open up with these women just in a state of distress, of unease. Like they're waking up from a bad dream. Things are crumbling around them. They're just being burdened by all this chaos happening around them. And I don't know. I feel like that's one of like the tragedies of those situations that's not touched on a lot. So I feel like George Romero was kind of lamenting, society's failure to protect women a little bit in these films. And there's this scene that I think really kind of encapsulates this in Day of the Dead, after Sarah has to cut off Miguel's arm to stop the infection, and she, cauterizes it with the torch.
And
then they fend off Rhodes and his men. And it's this great like stream of just stress that she's been through. And then eventually she just looks at John and she's like shaking and there's like tears in her eyes, and she kind of just falls in his arms and starts crying. And like that scene always really hit me, because that scene is where you realize like, wait a minute, like she's been burdened with a lot, like more than any woman should have to be burdened with, more than any man should be burdened with. But it's like, she's been burdened with so much and she's had to carry so much. And it's like, that's one of the big tragedies of these situations, I feel like, is that the women don't feel safe and they have to burden all this, all these problems and all this responsibility. And I guess that was a thought.
That's kind of it's a good point. I mean, that's the thing, like with Sarah and Day of the Dead, is that she's really one of the only characters in that film that's keeping it together. You know, she talks to Miguel, and Miguel's like, "I know you're strong. Okay, so what? So fucking what?" Like, he's collapsing. He's falling apart. The soldiers are falling apart. Logan's lost his mind. You know, John and Billy have pretty much checked out. They're not even involving themselves in anything anymore. But she's the one that's had to stay strong and keep things together as much as possible. And at that point in the film, yeah, she just kind of it all kind of crumbles and she just kind of breaks down. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, I've never like the evolution of the female characters in George's Dead films, especially the first three. I know people always, you know, used to not really give shit to George about it, but there's been people that talk about like the way that Barbara's kind of portrayed in Night of the Living Dead as like this helpless, like, you know. But if you ask Judy O'Day herself, like, she's like, I love the way that character's portrayed, because, you know, in the remake, you know, the Barbara character becomes stronger and more of like a Sigourney Weaver type,
Mm.
which is fine. It's a different take on the character, but, you know, Judith O'Day's always said, I like the way that Barbara's portrayed, and I don't think she's weak. I don't think it makes her weak in Night of the Living Dead, that she doesn't know how to handle any of this. I mean, who the hell would?
Yeah, it's
Like, you
like
know, like,
perfectly understandable.
yeah, it's like your brother was just you were just on a Sunday drive to the cemetery to visit your father's grave, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the dead are coming back to life. Your brother was just murdered, and now you're stuck in this house with all these people you don't know. It's like, yeah, I'd probably be just, you know, jello on a couch too, just sitting there just in my own head trying to figure out, like, compartmentalizing what the hell's gone on, what am I doing, like, what's going on. Um and she comes around in the end. You know, she stands up and tries to fight back in the end, and there's a whole process that her character has to go through in that. So I've never thought of her character as just like this weak, you know, helpless character or anything. um she reacted to it in a way that she reacted to it, whereas, you know, Marilyn Eastman's character, whereas Helen is a stronger, more, you know, with it, because she has to be, because she's, you know, she's looking after her daughter who's been bitten, and she has to be the motherly role, whereas Barbara's not. She's a young girl, you know. um so yeah, I mean, the way George has portrayed the female characters throughout those first three films, you know, Fran kind of grows. Like you said, she wakes up from a nightmare into this world where, you know, there's no, you know, where she's very, especially at the very beginning of the film, she's very, you know, kind of like helpless almost. Like, she is kind of helpless in the beginning. Like, she doesn't know how to, you know, defend herself, or know what she needs to, where she needs to be, what she needs to do. But then she kind of has to, take the reins at some point, and kind of stand up and fight back on her own. And she does that by the end of the film. You know, there's the growth there. And then, of course, Sarah by Day of the Dead she's, you know, it's been happening for, you know, years at this point, and she's adjusted, and now she's not like her character's not a military character. She's a scientist, she's a doctor. Like, she's not trained to, you know, to fight, but that's who her character has developed into. So there is like a development there where the women have to kind of learn to stand up on their own, and you know, and fight back, and not depend on, especially in Day of the Dead, not depend on the men around her to care for her and take care of her. Because, I mean, you're the sole woman in a bunker full of crazed soldiers. I mean, that could go wrong pretty quickly, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely an evolution of the female characters in George's films for sure. Um, but yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from, especially like when you're talking about, you know, like we were talking about earlier with, you know, the whole the masculine element of wanting to take care of things and care for and work together to build things, and build, you know, the society and stuff like that. The women in George's films kind of have to learn, you know, to become that as well, even though it is like a masculine thing to, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've never really thought about it, but yeah, I have you mentioned like the movie's opening with a woman waking up from a nightmare. Like that's something I never really noticed either until, until recently. Especially like Dawn of the Dead opens her waking up from a nightmare. Day of the Dead opens from Sarah waking up from a nightmare. Um,
What's funny
yeah,
is like they're waking up from a nightmare into a nightmare. Like their waking world is also a nightmare.
yeah,
So it's
they
like
can't
there's
escape
no
it. Yeah,
there's no escape. No, I was gonna touch on Dawn of the Dead though too. You're mentioning Fran. Um, I feel like part of the theme of that film is like the men don't really take her opinion super seriously. Like at least at first, because she's kind of the one pushing for them to like leave. She's like saying, what happened to I think Canada or something. She like mentions
yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
where they were supposed to be flying, and she's imploring Steven, like, look, I thought we were going to Canada. Like, don't you want to start a family there? And he's kind of brushing her off, and Roger and Peter are kind of doing their own thing. They're kind of enamored with the shopping mall. And they kind of leave her behind to go do their thing, and then she almost gets eaten by zombies when she's left alone. There's scene later where she's on the roof with the rifle while they're moving the trucks, and she's kind of relegated to this like background role where she's shooting the zombies, trying to defend them. She's like saving Roger's life a couple of times from
Mm-hmm.
some zombies, and she's like doing the best she can from her like backseat position. Um, but it's like it's kind of a shame that she's kind of relegated to this role, and like her counsel is not considered like more often, because I think she's probably the wisest out of all of them. Like she has the
Yeah,
best judgment, but it's like no one really cares.
yeah. She kind of sees it from the beginning, and it's the whole, you're hypnotized by this place, all of you. Like she knows it's we need to just take what we need and keep going. Like we don't need to, there's no reason to just stay here and fight for this mall. We gotta, there's other things that we need to achieve, and other places we need to go. Um, which I don't know if that's George's comment on society either, of saying like, oh, the men are too stubborn to listen to the women, and the women, maybe have it more figured out than we do. But
I
um,
think it's like the men want to like conquer and dominate, and they see the shopping mall as like a grounds for doing that. But then like the female nature is to like survive, maybe. Like she's more like survival oriented, but they're kind of just like wanting to conquer. They're like, oh, this is our land. Like let's make our stake here. Let's defend this. But
yeah.
then they kind of take it too far.
And I think maybe you think about like the whole idea that she's pregnant and she's got a baby to care for. Like she's more in tuned with survival and as opposed to conquering the mall. Um, so yeah, I mean, she does. I mean, she does seem to have it figured out, and she kind of goes along with it. And she stands up for herself, and when she's like, I'm not going to play den mother for you guys. I'm going to have a say in what's going on. And Peter's smart enough to know that she's right, and she actually is smart enough to know, like, okay, well, I need to learn how to fly that helicopter because I know your dumbass is going to get killed at some point, so we got to be able to fly out of here. Like she has the foresight to see all this stuff that these guys aren't even thinking about. Um, so yeah, I mean, her character, like I said, after it's like after the Hare Krishna zombie scene where she almost gets killed. I don't want you to leave me without a gun again. She takes charge for herself at that point because she's tired of being told what to do, what not to do, and um, yeah, I mean, I think it's and Galen's talked about that when they were making the film, and in ways she kind of changed George's view from what she said about how that character was going to be portrayed, because George wanted her to scream, in the movie, like, like a lot of screaming and stuff, to be the, your stereotypical damsel in distress type of character. And she was like, well, I don't think that's how this character should be portrayed. She needs, she should have a place in this group as well. I don't want to be running around falling down, losing my shoes and screaming and shit, like, um,
Yeah,
and
she kind of contributes. Like it's even her idea, I think, to use like the car that they find in there, like,
yeah,
to zoom back and forth and shut off the doors. Like that's her idea.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's, Yeah, I don't. And I think George has actually said that's what kind of changed his way of thinking about the way he portrayed female characters going forward, which is why you had a Sarah in Day of the Dead, and stronger female characters going forward after that was Fran, you know, kind of bringing that to his attention. It's like that's not always how it should go. I don't always have to be the damsel in distress here. I can take my place as well, and you can see that like I mentioned the original Dawn of the Dead script that George wrote in the 70s, and the Fran character in that is basically useless because she's pregnant in that as well. But then also the whole movie is just because it's just in the original script it's just her and Steven in the mall, and Steven goes down in the mall and gets the supplies, and and she's just up in the hideout just waiting for him to come back, and then it's just like she's just there. Um, so yeah, you can definitely see the evolution of that character as, especially even the shooting script, the script that they ended up shooting, that character changed a lot. Um, and yeah, that was kind of kind of new at the time too, because that was before Alien and Sigourney Weaver and the whole idea of like, oh, strong female characters, that should be a thing. Yeah, that was before that, so.
Yeah, I feel like George managed to do that in a way because I feel like nowadays, I feel like some movies can try a little too hard to like push that narrative, or there's like an
Oh yeah.
agenda there. But George did it in such like just like a normal way that just didn't
A
feel forced. It just
natural
felt
way.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
And
think part of it's like the casting too. Is like all like everyone he ever cast in his movies, like women included, were always like very like normal looking people, like very
yeah.
down to earth, like just seemed relatable. They weren't like, like superstars or anything. They were just average people.
Yeah. And I think that's the because everybody always talks about, the social commentary and stuff in George's films and his Dead films and stuff like that, but I think that's the brilliance of especially those original three, those first three films, is that yeah, the commentary's there, but it's not so in your face that it's all you can see, and it's like that's his only point of even doing this was like, oh, this is my point of view, and this is, whereas now it's like if you get a movie like that now, it's like so on the surface that it's like obvious. It's like they're beating you over the head with it. They're just saying like
Yeah.
this is what this movie is about. Get with the program type of thing. And George was able to layer that in there without losing what the whole purpose of the movie was to begin with, whether it was, a zombie movie or a vampire movie. It's like you watch Martin, and there's a lot of social commentary in Martin as well, but at the same time, it's still a movie about this kid and the life that this kid leads, and what happens to him and the people that he knows. But at the same time, he's also talking about society and the effects that the way society treats this kid has on it, and religion especially, which is another thing I wanted to ask you about. I've noticed a tinge of religious tones to a lot of your videos and some of the stuff that you talk about. Um, is that a big part of your belief structure? Like, are you a very religious person? Do you see a lot of religious tones in a lot of these movies that other people may not see?
Yeah, so that's a good question. 'Cause the thing is I was not raised religious. Like it's really never been a huge part of my life. I've always been kind of open to it though, or I've always felt kind of a connection to religion. I did recently actually. I've been going to church actually for a few months now. Like I started that recently, so I'm kind of getting into it a little bit more. But no, I feel like I've always kind of had a heart for that, and maybe it's weird to say, but I feel like George Romero, like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. I mean, yeah, both of those films feel like they have like almost a religious undertone to them, which sounds weird because I feel like some religious people might say that media like that is like indecent or something, or like
Yeah.
it's like satanic or whatever, which I just don't. I mean, some horror movies can get kind of over the top, and I could see that, but I feel like there's really like a pure hearted message at the heart of a lot of his movies, like Dawn and Day. Like he's actually trying to say something real. Um, like in Dawn of the Dead, that you know, at its core, it kind of feels like a statement about people who have kind of lost like a connection with, if you want to call it God or just like a higher consciousness or just like a potential to be something better, and they're settling for this like hellscape of like material comforts. And I think the shopping mall is actually really interesting like metaphor for hell, because I feel like hell can be described as kind of just like the same day over and over again, like steeped in your comforts, where it's like you're just doing the same thing over and over again, doing what's like familiar, what's comfortable, what's like granting you, momentary pleasure. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a really succinct like representation of what hell actually is like in practice. Um, and the theme, like the important ending is that they escape this and like they realize there's more to life than this. And I feel like there's a subtext there, if you really want to read it, there's like a subtext just that's almost religious. Like these people spent a long time living in what is more or less like a state of hell, and then they realize that it's not enough for them, and they leave to pursue something higher, whether you want to call that God or just I like to think of God as just like a almost like a potential for better. Like, like you're
Yeah.
more than this. Like, just to not settle for, these base comforts, just these things that are nice and they keep you stuck. Just like recognizing that you're capable of something better than this.
Yeah.
That's kind of Dawn of the Dead at its core.
It's the
Which,
pursuit of something higher than,
yeah,
yeah. I agree with that. And I definitely think there are probably, because George always talked about him, he grew up Catholic. He there's definitely some religious undertones to a lot of his stuff. Even directly. I mean, Martin is one of those films where he, very plainly is criticizing the church, the Catholic Church. Like he's very, especially a lot of the more ceremonial aspects of it. He's kind of poking a little bit of fun at it. The exorcists, like exorcisms and stuff. Like he's kind of taking a dig at some of that stuff. But I definitely feel like George always kind of carried his Catholic upbringing with him through his films. Like it always, whether it was in the forefront of his mind or in the back of his mind, I think that he definitely always carried that with him, to the point where, in Dawn of the Dead, when the nun zombie, when the nun zombie's stuck in the door at J.C. Penney's and Fran lets the zombie go,
you're right.
like
Yeah.
like George. I remember. I think Galen tells this story where, I think in the script, Fran is supposed to shoot her, but it just happened to be a nun zombie. So George's like, just let her go. It's like, why? I thought, but it's a nun. Like, just let her go.
Some
you know?
sentimental
Yeah,
attachment
or it's
there.
like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because George plays a priest in Martin, and he's kind of given this like take on the priesthood and that had become at that point. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of religious undertones to that. But yeah, that was something I noticed in watching a few of your videos. I think the 28 Days Later video that you did was brilliant. I think you kind of touch on that a little bit in that as well. That's one of my favorite movies ever. That was one that I saw when it
Oh,
came out and just
yeah,
changed my
same.
fucking world. Like, um, and so yeah, and I love the way you, and especially in the 20 Days Later, you kind of point out how the Jim character at the beginning, it's kind of like his birth, and then he has to go through the growth as a human to the end, to where I was like, yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, it does play perfectly, even down to the father character Frank. It's like literally a father character in the film that Jim kind of clings to, and then when he's gone, Jim has to step up and become the man of the household, if you will.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. He's got to fill those shoes, and it's like the final act of that film is like one of the most intense and like satisfying final acts because it's him. It's like his final like rite of passage into fatherhood, where he's like
Yeah.
shirtless, like savagely running through this mansion, just like trying to like stealthily, kill the last of these soldiers and save the two girls from their capture. And it's
Hmm.
just like it's so intense, and it's like this is it. Like it's go time, Jim. Like boy to man, right here. Make a man of yourself at this moment, and it's amazing. I think that
Yeah,
film's like it's a great coming of age story.
yeah, it really is. Like, it's funny to think of it that way, but it really is, and it's like we were talking about earlier, the whole concept of letting go. It's like it's a perfect example of that as well, because the ending of that movie, when you think that they're trying to get help, they're setting out the sheets, and you think it's going to say help when the jet flies over, but it just says hello because they're content, not in the world that they once knew, but they're content in this new life that they're living in this small little cottage out in the middle of nowhere. And then they found a better way at this point, and now they're fine with it. So I think I thought that was brilliant too.
That is brilliant. I actually never really connected that until you just said it now. That's actually
Really?
brilliant. Yeah, because
See,
it
look,
does say
man,
hello, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah. Because I remember why. It's funny because I remember going to see that in the theater with my dad. Because yeah, I think 2003. Like I was a fan of Romero's films at this point. I love zombie movies, and they didn't really make a whole lot of zombie movies at this point. Like it was and 28 Days Later changed the whole landscape of what zombie movies were. So I remember when it came out, there was a lot of buzz to it. And me and my dad went to see it, and I was watching it, and me and my dad, as we were leaving, and after that scene, we were getting up and leaving, and me and my dad just looked at each other and was like, that was really cool. That was really cool. But then all the people around me, I was listening, and it's like some lady was just like, well, that was just the stupidest thing I ever saw. That was the stupid ending. Like, what kind of ending is that? And I'm just like, I kind of got it even then. I was just like, oh, they're not trying to go back to Walmart. They've
Facts.
accepted this better way of living. Um, with yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I've loved that movie. I've always loved that movie from the time I saw it. Um, do you
No, it's
really?
incredible.
It says I have several memorabilia pieces. What do you have from Armed and Dangerous? I have to know this
Hmm.
because I love that movie. Have you seen Armed and Dangerous? With
No, but I do like I'm forgetting his name. The big guy.
John Candy.
John Candy, thank you. I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I know he's in that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll be
So,
watching that one this week at some point. That's a
the
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
go-to.
classic.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But yeah, this is one I grew up on watching all the time. I'm curious what you have from this, from Armed and Dangerous. Which, funny enough, I never realized it until I was watching it last night. But David Hess, who plays Krug in Last House on the Left, and we were talking about earlier, actually has a small little cameo role in Armed and Dangerous. And I was like, what?
Oh,
It's David Hess. He plays the ice cream man at the end of the movie.
are those around the same time?
No, this would have been probably 86. This would probably been about 14 years after Last House on the Left. So
Oh, okay. Wow.
I had no idea. It was pretty crazy. Um, hey, what's up, Fabian? Says I think Dance of the Dead is one of the most underrated zombie slash horror movies made in the past 20 years. Have you seen that one?
No.
I haven't either. It's basically a
Dance of
sort
the
of
Dead.
little homage to Romero, but also a fun spirit about it. I think I've heard of that, but I've never seen it. Um, Chin says now I'm interested in American movie. You've never heard? Have you seen American movie documentary?
I don't believe so.
Put that on your list. That's one you
Yeah.
gotta see. You gotta love it.
All right.
How
Writing it
big
down
is
as we speak.
how big is your list at this point? You got like you got a fucking spreadsheet. You pull
I
out.
do. Yeah, I do.
Um, Steven says, got to give the kid one more movie before the night's over. If you dig dystopian films, The Omega Man is a personal favorite. A little dated, but some great. I do love The Omega Man too with Charlton Heston. It's
I
what
love dystopia,
71.
so that sounds good.
Let's see. Yeah, that one too. Chet's Omega Man is great, but I prefer the original Last Man on Earth, which is the story that Romero admittedly ripped off for Night. It's a weird Italian slash American production, I think. Yeah, Last Man on Earth's another good one too with Vincent Price. And you can see a lot of Night of the Living Dead in it for sure, especially the way that the vampires and last. It's. Have you seen I Am Legend?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is it like that?
Yeah, it's what I Am Legend's based off of. Because the last man, so
Um,
so there was the book I Am Legend that from Richard Matheson, and then they made Last Man on Earth based off of that book, and then the Omega Man was also based off that book, and then they eventually made the book into a movie. So yeah, there's like a whole
So
thing.
it's like three adaptations.
Yeah, and Romero has admittedly said that he ripped off I Am Legend for Night of the Living Dead too. The whole idea of dead coming back to life and taking over the world.
Wow.
So yeah,
So is that
I
the
Am Legend's
original zombie, like modern zombie media then, that book?
probably. I mean, it definitely inspired it, which I think in I Am Legend, I think they're vampires. They're not zombies as we know them, which is what they are in Last Man on Earth, and kind of in Omega Man. They're kind of vampire, pretty much vampires. They can't come out during the day and shit. So yeah, I guess you can call them vampires, but Romero just kind of changed it, tweaked it a little bit, and kind of used that as the inspiration for Night. So. It says Dead End Drive. I've heard you mention this one before as a movie suggestion to Orion. Yeah, anybody else got any? Let's get the movie suggestions out from a boy here. Let's
Get pencils out, folks.
Dead. That's another one I haven't seen, but I've heard you mention before, Ed. I'm gonna write that one down too. Actually, look, this is just we're just getting a bunch of shit to watch tonight. Works for me. Dead End Drive. I think I've written that down before, and I've forgotten all about it. Let's see. We got some back and forth about Omega Man and Last Man on Earth. I like them both. They're very different. Last Man on Earth and Omega Man. They're very different types of films, but I like both of them quite a bit. So. Steven says Peter absolutely handled it properly. Until she became better trained, she couldn't really contribute like they did. But she did contribute many good ideas and ended up being more helpful than a burden. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
True. She
had to grow into that role, which, I mean, I often wonder how much they'd really seen of the epidemic until they had actually gotten to the helicopter. And because I truly don't think, like, in the movie, the Roger had seen what was actually going on until he got to that tenement, because you can see Roger's demeanor change. When you first see him, he's kind of cool, calm, collected, like, I've done this a million times, and then as soon as the shit starts hitting the fan, he starts seeing all this shit. That's when he starts to kind of crumble, and that character arc that Roger goes through where he slowly starts to lose it, that's where it begins. I think from that moment that Rod Tucker gets shot in the head, and it's like, oh, this is different. Like, this is not your typical, sweep and destroy or whatever. It's not your typical mission. Steven says if they did another remake of Dawn today, Fran would be a Navy SEAL and Flyboy would be a transgender. Roger would be non-binary, and they would make Peter more of a feminist. Yeah, see, that's what we're talking about. Like, now it would be so much more like right in your face that it would just be like, I don't need to be preached to. Come on. Chin says 28 Days Later was a masterpiece. Sad to say I can't say the same about that flaming turd 28 years later. Did you like 28 Years Later? Or what about the new one? Is that the new one, 28 Years Later?
I think, yeah, that is. I actually did not see it. I was gonna see it, and then for some reason I kind of just lost interest, and I decided not to. But I heard it was like really different, like strangely different than the original.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just missing a point or something about it. Like, I don't know. I just find it hard to, especially for a movie like 28 Days Later that I absolutely love. It's hard for me to come back all these years later and expect them to kind of live up to that, which I try to keep it in my mind. Like, okay, it's not going to be the same thing. It's been 20 years or whatever since, the last one. Which was 28 weeks later. That's what I was thinking of. But it's been forever since the last one. It's gonna be something different. Keep an open mind. And even with that in my head, like, I still walked out of that theater pretty disappointed and pretty just like, that's not that wasn't it, brother. That wasn't it. But I mean, definitely check it out. I'd love to get your opinion on it and love to know what you think. Did you like 28 Weeks Later?
I have it and I've not watched it.
Okay,
so
it's another one that's like the opening is really good, but then like after that, like I don't remember a whole lot about it because I think I've only seen it once when it came out. I saw it in the theater when it came out, but neither of them lived up to the original and what that movie was able to accomplish, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like before I watched that, I should have set my expectations. Like, yeah, it's not gonna be 28 Days Later. Like, it's
I
just
didn't know what
different.
it is. It's just I just didn't think it was a very good movie.
Apparently, they're
Period.
making a part
This just did it for
two.
me. Yeah,
Two 28 years.
yeah, I think they've already filmed that, and I think it's going to be coming out soon. So, um, I don't know if I'll even have the interest to watch it. Steven says that's a very interesting interpretation of Dom, and I do agree that Romero did have religious overtones to his film, but I think his cynicism overtook the spiritual aspects. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a mix of both. I mean, George was, I mean, all the way until his dying day, was very cynical of society and the world around him. Um, but like I said, I do think that that religious undertone was always, that George always carried that throughout his films, whether it was intentional or not. I just think that his upbringing, his Catholic upbringing and stuff, kind of was always there in the back of his mind.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of healthy. I think you can have a healthy dose of cynicism in your outlook. I feel like he balances it really
I think
well.
it's necessary. I think it's
It's
necessary,
necessary,
but
yeah, because there's a lot of stuff. He's calling out a lot of stuff in his films that like do deserve to get called out or like made fun of or criticized.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know how effective it is to be Mr. like happy and just like not criticizing anything. Like I feel like he does a really good job of he's got the cynicism, but he's not like steeped in it. He's not
yeah,
dwelling in it. Like there is a rebound. Like his films don't end. I guess Night of the Living Dead probably has like the bleakest ending, but like Dawn and Day both have like rebounds where it's like the ending is striving for something better.
yeah. Which George always is in the original script for Dawn. I mean, the characters were all supposed to die off. Like Fran was gonna kill herself, Peter's gonna kill himself, and then that was gonna be the it. But he also kind of changed his thinking as they were filming the movie. They just changed. There's different discussions on why it was, whether it was the Italians that kind of came in and said, George, we need a happier ending to this movie," or whether George just changed his mind on the spot because as they started filming, he kind of realized like, oh, these characters, you kind of like these characters and you can't just kill them off. But George would always say like, I just killed him off originally because I had no idea how to fucking end the movie. Like I didn't know
Mm.
how I wanted to end it. And so like, especially up to that point in George's career, most of his films ended with a bleak down ending where, whether it's, Ben getting shot in Night of the Living Dead or Martin has a very bleak ending. It's just because George, whether it was his cynicism coming through and overpowering his, whatever, or whether he just didn't know how to end the fucking movie, other than like, okay, everybody's got to go. Like, it's like, why bother? Um,
Yeah, I think at night it kind of plays into the commentary as it so happens because it's like yeah, everyone dies and it's like Ben's the last guy and it's just like classic. There's like the racial element too where it's like they're killing a black guy who's not a zombie and it's like did they really
hmm
think he was a zombie or did they just take a chance like they saw an opening just to kill a black dude and they did it. But there's also that theme of just the broad strokes like oh the military or not the military it's like a posse. It was like a
Yeah,
civilian posse coming around. They're the help we've been waiting for, and it's like, oh, the help is not really here to help.
yeah.
So it turns out we were waiting for nothing.
Yeah, not the help we needed there. So it's good. You got the Laserdisc, vinyl soundtrack, VH. I do have the vinyl soundtrack, the original soundtrack for Armed and Dangerous. I found that for like $4 at like a flea market or something a while back. Um, Deadstream, you seen that one?
No.
Robert says I've never seen that one either. And he's writing, folks. All
I
right, so
am writing.
we got some
Killer Clown.
suggestions here. Chin says Killer Clowns and Critters.
Okay. Are those two separate movies or is that one title?
Separate.
I
Killer
think
Clowns from Outer Space and Critters. Those are more like 80s horror comedies, I guess. So it would be. Although my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, does love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
fun stuff.
um, Steven says Videodrome. Have you seen
I
Videodrome?
I have Videodrome. I've not watched it, but I do have it, so I
Are
will
you
get
are
on
you
that.
have you seen a lot of Cronenberg's stuff? Are you big into Cronenberg yet, or?
No, I think that's the only one of his that I even have, and I haven't watched it. I forget what else he
I
did.
I think you'll get a lot out of Cronenberg. Cronenberg's done a lot over the years, but especially I love his 70s and 80s stuff. Specifically, Videodrome is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think, especially with from what we've talked about tonight with television and the effects of television on people, and Videodrome is like that's the king of that type of movie. So I think you're gonna love it when you finally watch that one. But he's also done Scanners. Trying to think from that time period. Scanners, The Brood, Shivers, Rabbit. I mean, Cronenberg has a very unique style to his films. They're horror, but they're also a little sci-fi, and they're
Mm.
also they're very heady. Like a lot of his movies, like when I first discovered them, I had to watch them 2 or 3 times to really kind of get it. First time you watch it, you're just kind of like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" Then you go back and watch it again. You start putting a few more pieces together, and you start to say, "Oh wow, okay, I see what he's doing here. I see what he's doing here." And still to this day, like not even being young, but like now, like if I see a Cronenberg film I've never seen before, a lot of the times I have to go back and watch it again, just to kind of pick up on what it was because there's so much to take in what he's doing. Yeah, I highly recommend anything David Cronenberg. He also did The Fly, the remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Okay, I've heard of that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Videodrome. That's the one you definitely need to check out and report back to me on.
sounds
Because
good.
I think you'll love that one. Chesar says A Boy and His Dog is a good dystopian film. That's a classic. So is the
I've heard of
original Road
that. Yeah.
Warrior. If you want super realism and less fun dystopia, The Road is amazing.
So I've read The Road, like the book. Um,
Okay.
not seen the movie though, but if you like post-apocalyptic stuff, I would suggest that book. That's like straight up one of the best books I've ever read. It's very good.
I've never read. I've only seen the movie, but I've heard from many people that book is one of the best books out there of its kind. So
It's like very punchy, like punchy and raw, and just like I've never read another book like it. Like I feel like it breaks a lot of typical like literary conventions.
hmm.
Just like very short sentences, like very specifically chosen words just to make the world as like grimy and gross and like as possible. It's very good. It's a very good read.
Who wrote that?
Cormac McCarthy,
That's right. That's right.
who he's done like westerns, I think, as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I'm familiar with some of his other stuff, but yeah, I couldn't remember that if he wrote that or not. I think I had an ex-girlfriend who used to have that book, and she would always say, "Oh, you need to read this book," and I'd be like, I'll watch the movie. I'll just watch the movie. It's fine." She's like, "No,
It's
it's
good
not the
enough.
same. It's not the same." Um, Robert saying I was definitely disappointed with 28 Years Later. Yeah, yeah, so was I, but what can you do? Shin says, remember Roger's face when he witnessed one of his SWAT team members blow his own face off? I think that was the moment where Roger started to realize hope was lost. Roger almost puked. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and Matt, my buddy Matt's always pointed this out. If you watch, and Scott Reiniger's talked about it too. I mean, he had a whole character arc in his head when they were filming. Like, he knew this character and, like, where he wanted to take that character in terms of, you know, his his mental health or whatever. It's like if you can tell, like as the movie is going, you can see him starting to slowly lose it to the point where when he gets attacked in the truck scene, and it's perfect, baby, perfect, and he's lost it, he's gone at that point. You can see the little hints building up to that, all the way leading up to that. You can see the little hints that Scotty put into that performance. That you can see that the wheels were turning there in that character's brain from the start.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're not paying attention, like his like sudden switch to like, manic like killer, it can feel kind of jarring. You're like, "Oh, where did this come from? Like why is he crazy all of a sudden?" But there are like subtle hints along the way, like if you pay attention, that
Yeah.
yeah, that he's like slowly losing it. So yeah, definitely if you pay attention, it all makes sense.
And it all goes back to the whole, loss of humanity aspect that I mentioned earlier. When it's like you must stop the killing or lose the war. Like, who was more trigger happy than Roger in that movie? Like he was just the assassin sharpshooter. Like one after another to the point where he's running them down in the truck and laughing about it. Like he's completely detached from killing being a bad thing at that point. Um, Whereas, as opposed to that, in the tenement scene where he's seeing all this going on, he's just, just shocked. Like he's not prepared for it. Um, skip around here on these comments, guys, and then we're gonna hop off here. It's been fun, man. I'm really glad you were able to come on. I was really looking forward to it because, like I said, I've been a big fan of your videos and what you do on your channel. And do you have anything coming up, man? Are you working on anything coming up soon?
Um, I had a few things. So I had a review of this like one independent movie that I got like an early screener for because I asked for it. Um, and I finished that review. You've most certainly not heard of the movie. Um, but I finished the review and I sent it over to the director because I wanted to make sure I didn't like spoil too much of the movie or anything. So I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
waiting back to hear from him. If he approves that, I'll probably put that out. But something more for the general audience is it's been kind of put on the back burner, but I was working on a video on Eraserhead, if you've seen that movie.
Oh, see, now that's one that I have never seen. I have never seen Eraserhead, but that's one that's always kind of been on my list of because David Lynch is one of those filmmakers that's like hit or miss for me. Like I
Mm.
love Blue Velvet. I love oh, what's that? I love the Twin Peaks series, the first season at least of Twin Peaks. Um, Not Mulholland Drive. There's the Mulholland Drive is another one I still need to see. But generally speaking, David Lynch is kind of hit or miss for me. Like Elephant Man is another one that I love, always loved. But Eraserhead I have not seen yet, so I'll look forward to your thoughts on that because that's one that I've heard from people that it's you either love it or you hate it. Some people get it, some people don't. Um, so
Yeah, it's I've been meaning to watch David Lynch, and that's the first one I've seen from him. It's the only film I've seen so far.
oh, okay.
So it's definitely definitely an intro to his like surreal filmmaking. Um,
Yeah, it's out there. Lost Highway is the one I was thinking of.
mm,
That's another interesting one that I kind of dig. But Blue Velvet is probably my favorite of his. Like I love Dennis Hopper in that movie. Like it's one of those movies where it's like it takes a hard left turn. You think you know where it's going, especially if you're watching it for the first time. It takes a hard left turn into fucking Crazyville, and you don't really see it coming.
all I know about that is like someone gets like gassed or something, like sleep gas. I don't know. That's all I know.
Well, it's not sleep gas. It's more of I don't know what kind of gas he's using, but Dennis Hopper's character is a crazed psycho in that movie. That his whole thing is he has this mask of like Latin. It's some kind of gas. I don't know. I can't remember what kind it is, but he uses it to like get high off of and pump himself up, and he just goes over the top. Like it's
Oh.
my favorite Dennis Hopper performance. Um, but yeah, Blue Velvet's good. But yeah, I still need to check out Eraserhead. But what were your general thoughts on it? Did you like it, Eraserhead?
I really liked it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like the video was gonna take more of like it's kind of like a personal essay like on why I like it and how it kind of relates to my life a little bit, like why I relate to it. Um,
Okay.
but certainly like I can see why people wouldn't like it because it's kind of like nothing really happens. It manages to be like 90 minutes of like not much happening, but it's just like drenched in like surreal atmosphere. Like if you just want a movie you can like totally like turn off the lights and like lose yourself in, just like inhabit this place. Like Eraserhead is that movie, but
Okay.
it's like it's a totally like it's a weird dimension filled with like things that are very familiar to your everyday, but like presented in context that does not make sense. It's like a nightmare. It's like the closest thing to like a nightmare you could get on film.
Yeah, I gotta check that out because that sounds like something I'd be interested in. Uh, Chins, are you glad George changed the script for the ending of Dawn? I am. I am. I think. I don't know if that movie would have worked if they would have killed themselves in the end. I think it would have just been like, it'd have been such a downer in a movie that we needed some kind of hope. Damn it, because we liked those characters too much. They were too likable of characters.
We do, yeah. I think it redeems the movie as a whole, like that they escape at the end, because it's like I was saying earlier, it's kind of brings home, you know, if there is a religious element to the film, that's kind of what brings it home. Is that they
Yeah.
escape at the end, and there's like this, this like search for something higher.
There's
You know,
hope
if
for
they if
something better out there than a shopping mall.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
um. Chintz Savini said he was not sure if they filmed Friend's death. They did some tests on the effect because in the original ending, Fran was supposed to stick her head in the helicopter blades and kill herself in the end. When she realizes Peter just shot himself, where he has the gun to his head. In the original
Yeah.
ending, he pulls the trigger and Fran says, fuck it, and sticks her head in the blades, and that's how it ends. They did shoot some test effects tests for that. I think it just didn't come off so well, and there's some photos out there of it. But they did shoot the final shot of the ending, if that would have been the ending, and I have seen that shot. And my buddy Larry has the dailies from the first day of shooting of Dawn of the Dead, and that was the first thing they shot was that ending shot, and it's a shot of the helicopter on the roof with the propeller blades whirling, and you see Fran's body laying there by the helicopter, and the zombies slowly, descending upon Fran's body as the camera pans back, and you see the dawn, like the sun coming up in the background, and that's how the movie was originally supposed to end. So they did shoot that, but the actual effect and all that, I don't think they ever shot it, because I know that head that was supposed to be used for that effect was used for the head explosion scene in the tenement at the beginning. That was actually Fran's head. So yeah, they shot some of it, but I don't think they shot the whole thing. Steven says, sorry I lied. I gave the kids some more suggestions, so here's one. Here's the last one for the night. Flash Gordon, a historical timepiece from a long forgotten time, the 80s. There you go. Yeah, Dead Zone is one of those Cronenberg films that I'm not the biggest fan of, just because it doesn't feel like it's more Stephen King than Cronenberg to me. Are you old enough to watch Shivers or Rabbit? There's a lot of boobies in there.
Well, I'm above 17, so yeah, I think so.
He's good, guys. Let's see. I'm gonna go through these. Okay, Critters 2. I guess just watch all the Critters movies. Ghoulies. You guys are recommending him watch all these fucking 80s schlocky fucking horror comedies from the 80s. Okay. Chin says it would be interesting to see an in-depth breakdown on Wooly's mental breakdown. You got to think everyone in that Living Dead world is some sort of PTSD. Oh yeah, Wooly was fucking gone. Chin says I got to watch Eraserhead again. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that one now, especially since your video's coming out on it. So, Steven says Eraserhead is definitely a mind trip. I absolutely agree with you. You either love it or hate it. And those are usually the movies that I love. Like, I'm a huge fan of, like, a lot. And Steven always gives me shit because he's like, "Oh, you're just saying this for shock value. You don't really like that movie." And I'm like, "No, I actually do. Like, I like a lot of movies that a lot of people don't." So it's like, I don't know. I have weird tastes sometimes, but
It's funny because with the internet, so like your taste, like things that you like, you go out into the average everyday world. You go to Target, and it's like, yeah, no one at Target like likes the movies you like. But then it's like you just go on the internet. It's
story of my
like,
life. Yeah.
yeah, like like you think you're weird, but you just go on the internet, like just go on Reddit or something, and it's like, oh, it turns out there's like 10,000 people who like all the things I like. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's the cool part of the internet, I guess. That's why I started doing this channel to begin with, because nobody wanted to talk to me about. I could go to work and be like, "Hey guys, let's talk about George Romero," and they'd be like, "Who the fuck is that?" I'm like, "Ah, I don't know." So I was like, "Well, fuck it, I'll just go on here and believe it or not, there are people that love this shit as much as I do." I was like, "Wow, cool, all right." So yeah, that's the good thing about the internet is you can kind of find your people in your own little niche. So, and I'm
For
glad I
sure,
found
yeah.
you, man. I'm glad I found you. I'm glad found your channel. Your videos are awesome. I will continue to watch and love to have you on again sometime, man. Anytime. You just let me know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to come back on. This has been great.
Yeah, let's do it, man. And thank you, everybody in the chat. You guys were great all night. Thanks for all the movie. My man's here's got a fucking spreadsheet full of shit to watch, so keep an eye out. I'm sure we'll see some videos on those coming soon. I'm waiting for your in-depth review of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I look forward to that one.
A
But
deep psychological breakdown.
and I'm sure you can find them, man. I'm sure you can figure out something because there's something deeper there. There's a reason that silly ass movie has held its water all these years. I'll say that because it is a super entertaining movie, and it's a really fun fucking movie. So, um, but yeah, thanks everybody in the chat. It's been great. Make sure you're giving the video like it, give it the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, if you're watching for the first time, and everybody head over Orion Trips at Orion Trips, sub to his channel, check out his videos. You will not regret it. And shop.alfaromero.store. The holidays are just around the corner, guys. It's time to get that Romero fan in your family, the Romero the Romero merch they've always wanted. Um, they have socks and fanny packs and stuff now over on TeePublic. It's fucking crazy. I was like, I didn't sign up for fanny packs. What is it?
Fanny packs.
Yeah, I don't need a fucking Alfa Romero fanny pack. But if you do want an Alfa Romero fanny pack, you can get it at shop.alfaromero.store. So, but thanks again, man. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Keep in touch. Like I said, anytime you're welcome back anytime, my man.
Hey, yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a good time, yeah. And I'll reach out if I want to come back on again.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure I will.
Anytime. But till next time, guys, you guys have a great week ahead, a great Thanksgiving. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. And like I said, I might come back and do like an American movie watch along or something because that's one of my go-to Thanksgiving movies every year. So might do something like that coming up here in the next week. So, but until then, guys, everybody out there, stay safe, stay prepared, but always stay scared.